Rockets. Welcome into episode 35, Isaac Okoro episode of Two Man Game with Damon and Dom. I'm Damon, that's Dom, and you are the listener. Before we get into it today, please remember to like and subscribe, comment on our YouTube channel. If you're listening on Spotify, leave 5 stars, download the episodes, and share it. Share it with everyone, your friends, your family, your enemies, and even complete strangers. Share it with them all. We have a lot to talk about, a lot of playoff updates, some teams that are no longer with us, some teams that are still fighting on. Currently, we have Knicks 76ers, a 2-point game as I'm watching here towards the end of the third quarter. Uh, Thursday evening.
It's a
So,
5 point game now.
well,
I'm
I
I'm
was,
gonna give I'm gonna give the updates 15 seconds before you see them.
look, I'm doing the best I can.
You're doing
Um,
great.
but before we get into all of that, before we get down to the nitty-gritty, the basketball, Dom, how are you?
I'm doing great. I apologize for interrupting, but I thought it was too funny that I'm like 15 seconds ahead of you on my stream. So,
Yeah.
um, I will try. We were making jokes before that I'm gonna have to try to like hold in anything that happens in the game so you can't tell when something happens. So this will be fun. This will be a fun pod to do. But I'm doing good. Watching a lot of basketball. Tuesday was a no, it was Monday night was a rough night. Tuesday was a rough day, but we got through it. And at the end of the day, it's just basketball, and I'm just, very happy for the teams that have moved on. And I'm very curious to see what the teams who unfortunately are out of the playoffs, what they're going to do. But besides that, I have had a good week. I had some band practice with my band, and we also tried a new lineup. I don't know if I've talked about it on the pod, but one of my members is leaving, so we tried a new lineup, and it sounds really good. I'm really excited, and I saw Challengers as well, sports related,
All right.
yesterday. Yeah, but how have you been?
I have been good as well, watching a lot of basketball as well. Yesterday, I slept for like 11 hours. I went to sleep at like 9:30, which is super early for me. I like didn't even watch. I watched 0 seconds of Mavs Clippers yesterday. And I didn't really watch a ton of the. I guess no, I did. I watched. What was the first game? I don't even remember. Cavs
Oh,
Magic.
Celtics Heat, Celtics Heat.
Celtics Heat. Never mind. I didn't
Yeah,
watch that much of that because it
yeah.
wasn't very
It was
good.
the
But
30-point blowout.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was starting to watch it, then I was like, eh. So yeah, I was very tired. But I saw Monkey Man after our last pod, like right after we were done recording. That was
Yeah.
pretty good. Played basketball on Sunday, I think, and on Tuesday after work, and I think I'm playing again this weekend. So, just getting out there in the court, watching basketball, doing
Yeah,
that. That's
nice. I forgot I played Sunday as well. I remember I told you about that. It's been the first time in
yes.
a while.
We're hooping. We're hooping here.
I can't wait to hoop with you again.
I can't wait to get the fan hoop together, like our
Oh
fans of
yeah.
the podcast against us.
You know what'd be funny? Well, it's crazy is you're gonna have your own fan team in Texas. I'm gonna have mine here in LA, and that means we'll have to do
Oh,
like a tournament at some point, LA versus Austin.
we'll have to meet in the middle, so everybody come to New Mexico or
Yeah,
whatever
New Mexico, like
in the middle.
Albuquerque. Yeah. Some random park in Albuquerque. Outdoor park. But yeah, I'm glad you're playing basketball and stuff. That's really fun. I'm
Yeah,
glad
yeah,
you're
yeah.
getting a lot of runs in. How are those? I know you told me about those Giannis shoes you got. You broke them in.
Yes, I broke them in. They're very nice. I feel very good
Nice.
in them. I think they're behind me. Yeah, you can see them over there. They're
Oh, I was like, where are you going? You
yeah,
just got
they're
to go off screen.
they're
They're right over here.
part of the display now, except you can't actually see them unless I move.
Yeah. Lovely. Lovely. I see you're wearing a Rockets jersey at number one. That's a Min Thompson, right?
I wish it was Amon Thompson, but no, it's actually a rookie, a Jabari Smith Jr. jersey when he was number one last year.
Oh,
That
vintage,
yes,
vintage.
vintage from one year ago that my mom and Brian, her boyfriend, shout out those two, got for
Shout
me.
out.
I think on my birthday, before like Jabari Smith had even really played, or maybe it was Christmas, I don't know. But of course, after last year, Eric Gordon left and Jabari Smith wore 10 in college and maybe before college, I don't know. And he wanted to be 10, so he was like, I'm changing my number immediately. So now this jersey is worthless and garbage. Not really, but it sucks because I was like, I'd really like a number one in Min Thompson jersey, but I already have a number one jersey. I don't want
Yeah.
more.
Just cover it with like, the back,
That's the
just cover
worst.
it. Yeah, no. Just do that. It's so easy to do. Or actually, you know what?
I'll
Even
cover
better,
it
just
and
put
do McGrady.
McGrady.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, hey, look, same wavelength, same wavelength.
Should have
I
retired
like
it,
it.
even though he was
Um,
only here for like 4 years, five
I
years,
totally agree
something like
that it
that.
should
But
have been retired there. But yeah, isn't Yao Ming retired? That's so strange
yeah, I
that he's
mean, yeah.
retired but not
But he
McGrady.
like only played for the Rockets.
I know, but I feel like to me they were together, and Trace McGrady has like his highlight of his career was at Houston. So,
Can you tell me all the teams Tracy McGrady played for?
okay,
I don't know if I could
Raptors,
tell you all the teams he played for, honestly.
Magic, Rockets. I don't know why I'm thinking Cavaliers or Bulls, maybe.
There's at least one team I know of that you're forgetting.
Okay, I actually don't know. That's all I know for sure.
Okay, so the
Were
team
the
I knew was the Knicks. He played on the Knicks for a year.
He did. Okay, that does sound
But
familiar.
what I did not know is after that year, he played for the Pistons, and then he played for the Hawks, and then he went overseas for the year and played for the Qingdao Eagles, and then he came back and played for the Spurs. So
Little did I know this was going to be a Tracy McGrady first like cold open to the episode.
just going all over the place here.
Yeah, he was at the Orlando Magic game. I saw that game
That's
four, I
cool.
think. So that was cool, representing the team that he was traded to after the Raptors, right? It's Raptors, Magic,
Yes.
then
And his
Rockets.
number's not retired there either because
I
Jonathan
know.
Isaac wears it right now.
He sure
But also
does.
Penny Hardaway wore number one too. So like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't
Stop
know.
giving number one to everybody. That's the lesson, I think.
Yeah, that is the lesson. And then, so the shirt I'm wearing, I think you'll get a kick out of it. It was a gift from my father last Christmas. An NBA basketball shirt, literally, like generic NBA brand, NBA
It's so
basketball long
that
sleeve
is funny.
shirt. Thank you, Dad.
I
I like
love that
wearing it
it
as a
has the silhouette of the logo and then another silhouette on the other
yeah,
side.
it's
Why
like
does
they're
it
like
have two
mirrored. They're
silhouettes?
like, yeah, two people playing basketball against each other with two balls. It's a very interesting shirt, but I like wearing it as an undershirt.
Ah, yeah.
It's very comfortable and tight. So shout out, Dad. Thank you for the gift.
Shout
And
out my father too, actually, if people don't know.
yeah, exactly. And I'm just glad that I found another shirt to wear before we run out of things to wear.
Yeah, I'm close for sure.
Yeah, I believe. All right. I think let's just hop into some news.
Let's do it.
Yeah, but before we're gonna do some new stuff, some personal thoughts real quick before we just dive into the playoffs. Like
Oh
it's gonna
yeah.
be just an
We're gonna
hour
talk about
straight of the
pe
hottest playoff content you've ever heard.
people that are out, what's next for those franchises, series that are still ongoing, what we think's gonna happen in round two. But before any of that, like you mentioned, let's do some awards.
Yeah, let's talk about who won Coach of the Year. Want to tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, just because you don't want to pronounce the name, Mark Daignault won Coach of the Year.
I would say Mike or something. Yeah, so
He won Coach of the Year for the Thunder. I believe we both had him as our pick. I had him as my prediction. I think you had him as your prediction too at the beginning of the year. So we're geniuses, basically. That's the bottom line here. But he won over Chris Finch and Jamal Mosley, the other two nominated. So yeah, I think no surprise here. Young Thunder team. I think the youngest ever one seed in terms of average age of the players on their roster. They just swept the Pelicans recently, so definitely worthy.
also youngest team to ever sweep another team in the playoffs.
Mm.
So very cool little stat about that. So congrats to Mark Daigneault.
And
Um,
they have an MVP candidate, but I think it's very, they play team basketball over there. So
Absolutely, and we love to see it. And we're going to talk a little bit more about them a little bit later. But congrats to Mark Daigneault, and also want to say you're a genius because these three were your predicted finalists as well. So,
hire me, NBA.
and then through him, he'll hire me.
We're a package deal.
We're a
So
package deal, exactly. Talking about package deals, Brad Stevens of the Boston Celtics
okay,
won NBA Basketball Executive of the Year, which makes a lot of sense. I think he used to be the coach
hmm
and a package deal because he put packages together to
there
get
you go. That's when you said
players.
that. That's what I was
Ah,
thinking.
yeah.
Also, he's a
I
package
didn't
deal because
know.
he was a coach. He was a coach and now he's a president. So he's like, oh, I can do a little bit of everything.
See, I knew I was just going to try to make it work. I had no clue where I was going to go with that.
It
That's how
worked.
smart we are. But yeah, I mean, he did a great job putting together, a team that had the best, you know, record in the NBA this year. He
Yeah,
got Drew Holiday. He got Kristaps Porzingis. They basically just he got Xavier Tillman, which people don't talk about. I think that's very
that's true.
important bench player.
Drafted
Got a
Jordan Walsh, the scariest man on planet Earth.
I don't want to talk about that. Um, yeah, he needs some like facial hair or something, please. If you're listening, Jordan, just grow a mustache or something.
I was gonna say something, but I think it would have been offensive. So
Yeah, it's okay. We'll save it. We'll do it off the pod.
yeah, I'm gonna say it anyways because now I can't say that and then not say it. And people are like, "Oh my God,
Okay,
what was he
I'll
thinking?"
check you. What are
I
you? What are you?
I was gonna say he reminds me of the like creatures from I Am Legend.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I kind of. It's just because there's no hair. It looks very like expressionless.
Yeah.
It looks a bit like a mask.
Mhm.
But he's when we saw him at summer league, he was pretty good.
Oh
So.
yeah, he was tearing it up for sure.
Yeah, he's tearing it up. So shout out Jordan Walsh. Thanks for listening to the pod. I'm sure you do. But yeah, Brad Stevens, not a big surprise that he was NBA basketball executive of the year.
Why didn't we
Congrats
do
to
our
him.
top three for this? Because no
The,
one cares. That's
yeah, also
why.
the other ones, like I didn't even know. I knew
I
there's awards that kind of go out, but they're not
the
talked about.
they're not like the NBA's awards. They're like side association awards that
Yeah.
people also win. But like, yeah, they're not one of the big, accolades. But yeah, speaking of the other players, Mike Conley winning Teammate of the Year. I don't think that's really a surprise. I think Mike Conley, for most of his career, has been one of the more well-liked players in the league.
Hmm.
And at this point, he's a veteran and he really helped the Timberwolves a lot with kind of putting their team together. He's not one of the star players or one of the names that's going to come to mind really when you think of them, but he's like a glue guy and a veteran presence. So yeah, not a surprise that he would win that award. I don't even know how you nominate that, pick that. How do other teams know who the teammate of the year? Like I don't get that, but
Yeah.
it makes sense. No complaints.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard a lot about how much the Timberwolves specifically respect him, and he's on the Jazz. He was kind of a leader, veteran presence. So, congrats to Mike Conley. Also, congratulations to the Lakers legend Alex Caruso for winning the Hustle Award. Um,
Yes.
Makes a lot of sense. He is one of those players when you think of defense and hustle plays. He is one of the first guys you think of. Definitely a bright spot on the Chicago Bulls roster. So congrats to Alex Caruso for
Jalen
winning that.
Suggs is coming for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, hey, there's always next year. Don't worry, Jalen. You're in the playoffs, so I think you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, that's true. And then the verdict is still out on MVP, which is Jokic, SGA, Luka, DPOY, Bam, Gobert, Wemby, and Rookie of the Year, Chet, Brandon Miller, and Wemby. I think Rookie of the Year is obviously Wemby.
Yeah,
The other two,
absolutely.
even Defensive Player of the Year is like probably Gobert, but they haven't
Yeah.
officially announced them yet. Uh,
I actually was just thinking it's so strange to me that they haven't announced like I feel like rookie of the year is less important than most improved player or six man of the year. And it's just a strange order. Like I feel like they would
yeah,
go maybe like least significant to most significant, but
I
they
feel
kind of
like
skipped around.
I feel like it should change every year to like what has the most variety. Like the award that was most tightly
Mm,
contested should be the last one announced.
that's actually I like that. I like that quite a bit. Maybe it is like that.
I feel like it isn't because I feel like
Yeah, I
Wemby
feel
winning
like
Rookie of the Year and Gobert winning Defensive Player of the Year is
it's
gonna be
like
like, oh
pretty
yeah, and even
obvious.
like Jokic is probably gonna win MVP again.
You
And
better
that's like
not.
probably like when the votes come out, we'll see. But
Yeah, I want a first time MVP so bad, but we'll see. But yeah, talking about the playoffs, we've been watching it for a few weeks now. Just some thoughts that we kind of wrote down, and I thought this was a crazy. I read this and it didn't surprise me because I remember watching all of this, but it was kind of strange to hear out loud. So LeBron James, Steph Curry, or Kevin Durant
pretty
won't
good
play.
players.
Yeah, they won't play in the second round for the first time in 20 years.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It's just nuts to think about, that they've been,
Defining generations.
yeah. And I actually think it's quite exciting. Like I don't think it's a sad thing. I think it's exciting that these young players are like it's this is a very clear generational divide, which I think about the time like when we were growing up, the players were like Shaq, Kobe, T-Mac, Vince Carter, and then eventually like the younger guys kind of took that like LeBron James, um and which is so crazy because he's like still in that. But help me out here. I got it. Oh, like I mean, even it's like this class, like Steph Curry, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. Like I feel like that was
Right.
the next generational, and now we're in the next generational. It's
We're in the
like
Luca, the ant.
Anthony Edwards,
Yeah. Yeah.
Shea Gilgeous
Yeah.
Alexander. Yeah,
Jokic.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's very cool. It was just I thought that would be an interesting thing to kind of
Yeah, I
talk
actually
about.
think it's interesting you bring that up because not only is it that those three guys, specifically amongst others, older players, are not going to be in the second round, but it's the young up and comers that are knocking them out. Like Anthony Edwards, who we'll get to, his favorite player being Kevin Durant, and then knocking Kevin Durant out of the playoffs.
It's
Um,
poetry. It's like
yeah.
it's
So
beautiful, you
we
know.
got a good amount of young versus old in like the first round this year.
Hmm.
Even the Pacers Bucks, which ended today, that really young team against like Damian Lillard because Giannis wasn't playing, he
Right.
was kind of the guy. But like, yeah, that very young versus old divide, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, aside from that, a couple other things I'll hit on real quick in the playoffs. I don't know if you've noticed this, but typically in games they do interviews with players and I'm sorry, with coaches after the
Yeah.
first quarter and third quarter, and they switch. It's whatever coach first and then the other coach later. But this year they've been doing some player interviews instead, which I think is interesting because I feel like coaches give like very generic answers every time. They're like, "Hey, their defense has been really good. What do you do?" We got to get open looks and make our shots. It's like, oh, obviously. I think the players give a little more like they don't really think about it. They just say whatever comes to their mind. So like they'll ask them something, and they're like, oh yeah, this, and it's like a little more, sustenance or whatever. So I've
Yeah.
enjoyed that. I feel like I have never noticed that before. I thought it was always coaches, but this year I'm seeing some players as well in the playoffs.
Yeah, I did notice that. And actually, I'm kind of on the other side of this coin. I have never liked that, interestingly enough. But let
Never
me tell you
liked
why.
the interviews in general, or that
The
players are
interviews,
doing it.
the interviews in general, period. Sorry, I don't mean like period, like that's it, done.
No more
No, like
interviews ever.
no more, done. No, I mean I like it as a viewer, but me, I'm putting myself in that position. I'm on the bench, I'm in the middle of a close game. Some interviewer comes over, it's like, hey, can I ask you a couple questions? I'm like in the middle of talking to my coaches, trying to figure out our next plan, and you want to ask me like how we're doing? I don't
Yeah.
know. If that was me, I'd be really peeved. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I hear
So,
what you're
but
saying, but I think they were already doing it with coaches who were like the most important people to take away from a team.
no, that's what I'm saying. I never liked it,
I
even with
see.
coaches. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, and now I'm like, oh, now you're getting players in the mix, so now they're getting their head out of it
Right,
too. I'm like,
right.
you're getting more people off the bench. Like, I feel like you need to really kind of, when you're in the game, you need to like forget about the crowd, just be in this bubble of like you're in the zone. Like, I need to win this game, you know. But again, I don't know how they feel. This is just how I think I would feel. But obviously, as a viewer, I do love the
I
interviews.
I do
I
feel like a lot of the times they're like hurry up so I can go back and like do my job.
a few
Ask whatever it is
times
you need to ask.
A few times I've seen the coaches, but it's a really close game. They'll ask like, "So "How's you doing?" Like, we're doing great. I gotta get back," and they'll just like go. And I'm like, that sounds like what I would do if I was there.
Yeah. Get
But
like
I
the
mean, as
15th
a
guy on the bench, like the old veteran that doesn't actually play.
get
Like get
Udonis
that guy.
Haslam
Yeah, get
every time. But I agree with you. I do like that they're getting players because it is a bit more personable than just the coach, and because these are the player I know these players more than the coaches sometimes, and you get classic lines from Bobby Portis, which we might talk about a little bit later. Just him referring to himself in the third person, which
a
is
classic.
so classic and so good to me. He's been so good to me. So. But I'm glad you brought it up because I have noticed that too, that players are being interviewed in school.
Yeah, a couple other things real quick that I want to throw out there. Just a general thing, officiating, the thing we always bring up on this podcast. It's been not consistent, not only across like the playoffs as a whole, which I think like for example, we're watching the Knicks 76ers, like that's been very physical and they've been allowing a lot of play to happen. Whereas other series, it feels like they haven't been letting anything happen. So like that's kind of annoying because it's like that series is really physical. That one is like they're not letting them do anything. So that's annoying. But even within a game, it's like you didn't call a call for this, but then later on in the game, you called a call for the same exact thing you didn't make that call for earlier. And that's been a little annoying to watch. And that just adds on to the officiating we've been talking about all year. But that's been frustrating. Have you noticed that, or any like specific instances that you think are like kind of silly or anything like that?
Yeah, I've absolutely noticed that. Like you said, specific series are great examples of the physicality. Like I think the Knicks 76ers and Clippers Mavericks have both been very physical.
Hmm.
And I don't know because it's different referees every game. It's not like it's the same people. So I don't know if they're going in realizing that it's going to be physical, so they kind of get into this mindset. And as a viewer, I love the more physical. Like that's this playoff
Right.
basketball. Like this is you win, go home. Like that's it. But then if I'm trying to recall, I think Pelicans Thunder was very like a lot of foul calling. If
Hmm.
I although it's been a while since I watched a game because
Right. It's over.
it's over. And then a lot of inconsistency with like the Lakers Nuggets series and also I mean, I feel like I was watching some Celtics Heat and they were calling like everything. So it's just I obviously don't love the consistency that the officiating has been. Although I will say that I'm glad. I wish they did it during the regular season, but that they are recognizing that some games are more physical
Mhm.
and that that's how it should be played. Obviously no like blatant fouls, flagrant fouls, but just kind of getting like you can bump into people without it being a foul. Like that's not shouldn't be a foul.
Yeah, I think they kind of noticed with the All-Star game and the scoring being like at an all-time high, nobody playing defense in the All-Star game, and after that they kind of started letting the players be more physical towards the end of the regular season, and it's translated into the playoffs for sure. The last thing I wanted to mention on terms of this is foul baiting. Um, because I hate it, and it's been happening. I've been noticing it a lot throughout the playoffs. A lot of star players do it. Even some role players do it. And the thing that really irks me about it, there's two things. One, I don't think it should be called. And when I'm talking about foul baiting for the listener, what I'm talking about is when people have the ball, they take a pump fake, the defender jumps in the air, and then they jump into the defender and like try to shoot it, which always draws a foul. One, I don't think that's a foul on the defensive player because the offensive player is the one initiating the contact. The defensive player is just jumping up because they thought you were going to shoot. Two, it's not basketball. Like, I feel like I listen to and read a lot of things um, about like people that say foul baiting is smart playing, like their IQ is so high and they're getting to the line and like that's free points. But like basketball to me is just five people against five people. We're trying to put the ball in the hoop. And you doing a pump fake and then intentionally like shouldering this person while throwing up like a half shot is not basketball. Like it's just not. It's silly and I don't like it. And we're watching Knicks 76ers right now. Joel Embiid has been doing this all series. Even Jalen Brunson does a lot of foul baiting too. But lots of star players, SGA foul baits, Luka foul baits. When I was watching the Bucks Pacers earlier, Patrick Beverly pump faked on a three and then jumped into Halliburton, and they didn't call it. And I was like, oh, great, they finally didn't call one of these. But they call them all the time, and it's just something that I'm passionate about because I think it takes away from basketball. It makes people not want to watch it because it's like that's not basketball. Like you're just trying to get a foul. You're just trying to kind of cheat the game, cheese the game, and at the end of the day, that's not the objective. So something I'm a little passionate about that I wanted to kind of just touch on.
Thank you for bringing it up. I totally agree with you. What they should be are offensive fouls.
Yeah,
Because I know that the kick out is
yeah.
the offensive foul now. If you are going for a shot, usually a 3-pointer, and your feet do an unnatural shooting motion like kicking out, then that should be an offensive foul, which they also like never call anymore. It was in the beginning of the seasons that they always kind of do it. They're trying to start it, and then they never do.
Yeah, I feel
And
like they made an
it's
emphasis on that like a year or two ago. They were like, we're going
and
to call these offensive fouls, and then they just stopped.
and it almost looks like they're teaching people to shoot 3-pointers by kicking their legs out to
Mhm.
try and get these fouls, and that's just dangerous.
Yeah,
You're going to end up falling. You're going to end up hurting the defender. You're going to end up hurting yourself, especially with the. And we talked a little bit about the swing through.
yeah.
Thankfully they don't call
The
that
Chris
as
Paul.
much. Yeah, but the foul baiting thing is that if you are pump faking defenders in the air, you jump into them. That's an offensive foul.
It's also
Like I don't.
dangerous.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
understand how it's not an offensive foul. So, and while we were talking about that, I also was watching Pacers Bucks,
Mhm.
and I wanted to talk about continuation fouls
Mm.
because
Is this are
it's
you referring to the Nimhard play?
yes,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
there have super specific, so a continuation foul for the listener or someone who doesn't, know the names of these fouls is when, let's say, I'm driving to the hoop and someone comes down on the ball, slaps my arm, but I'm already in my shooting motion. So I take another step, I go up and I make a layup. Technically, I was continuing my shot, even though I was fouled. So the shot should count. My problem with that is that when there's a continuation foul, they always blow a whistle, which makes the defender stop
Stop.
defending,
Right. And then
and
they
then it's
get
a
a free
wide
shot.
open shot.
Yeah, exactly. I
And
agree
that is
100%.
so upsetting because I'm like, it's not a shooting foul. The ball didn't leave his hand while he was getting fouled.
Right.
Like, it really should only be a shooting foul. I don't see how a continuation foul really is a thing. And it also just puts more people on the free throw line. It puts more time in the NBA. Like, people want action. You don't want to just sit and watch people shooting free throws all the time. And then the thing is, what is a gather? Some people see it's a gather, some people don't. That's where these lines are so blurred that, you get people taking advantage of things like that, and players getting upset if it's not a continuation foul. And I'm like, obviously it wasn't, because the ball was in your hand. You got a foul, you blew a whistle, you threw it up, and you're like, I was shooting it. It's
Right.
like, no, the ball was down anyways. I didn't even know I was going to go on a rant this time too. So this is funny.
Great. I'm
But yeah,
glad. The
there you
passion
go.
I can sense it. Yeah,
Continuation fouls. I don't like it.
I totally agree. Because yeah, I mean, you mentioned they blow the whistle, the defender stops, and then yeah, the offensive player just basically has a free open thing to lay.
And then a free throw. I'm like,
Yeah.
huh?
I believe Embiid, I think, just got a flagrant foul for hitting Isaiah Hartenstein in the face.
Oh, and he
Uh,
was bleeding. I saw something in his nose.
I don't have the
Hardenstein.
volume on, but the I can literally read the crowd saying "refs, you suck." So
Oh my God.
I assume it's a flagrant, and Nick Nurse looks very upset. So I'm not exactly sure, but by the way, for the listener, 5 minutes left in this game for me at least. Knicks up 3, 101 to 98. So
Yep, 5 minutes left. Yeah, that's gonna be a good ending. This series has been great, which we'll talk about,
oh
I'm
yeah,
sure. By the time we get
but
to
by
it,
the time we
it'll
get
be
there, yeah,
done. Yeah,
exactly,
it'll be
exactly,
fun.
it'll be great.
Okay, so yeah, that's our personal thoughts a little bit about playoffs. Like, let us know what you think about that kind of stuff. If we're right, if we're wrong, why are we wrong? This is a conversation. I'm neither of us are like, no, we're right, you're wrong. Like, if you like these things, I want to know why. Maybe
Yeah, but we are right.
change our minds so
So
we're right about this stuff for sure. But let's talk playoffs. You wanna take the first I guess we could kind of trade off, but
sure.
talk a little bit about Suns Timberwolves. Tell me
Actually,
about this.
I want you to talk about this because I know you have been a Timberwolves fan all year. You chose the Timberwolves to win the series in 7. I chose the Suns in 6. By far my worst pick of the playoffs so far. After this, my picks are really good, by the way. But this one,
Yeah.
Suns in 6, way off. So
I mean,
I'll,
I was off too. Timberwolves in 7. Please, Anthony Edwards
at
only
least
needed
at least you
4.
had the right team. So-
Yeah. Yeah, I know you did concede, but I get it. Yeah, so Timberwolves sweep the Suns. First time in franchise history they've swept a team in the playoffs, and first time since
2004.
2004 that they 20 years, yeah, that they
Yeah.
are advancing to the second round of the playoffs. So
Since
very
KG.
since KG, very excited, very happy for them. So game 3, let's backpedal a little bit. So game 3, which was the first game in Phoenix, was pretty close most of the game. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker had a breakout game. He sunk 4 threes in the fourth quarter, and that put the Suns away for good. They just had no answer. The Timberwolves defense has really been the highlight of this series, and also the lack of Bradley Beal being a star, and the depth of the Suns was very blatant in these 4 games. You want to tell me one of our favorite quotes that Bradley Beal said after game 3?
After game 3, Bradley Beal says, I don't remember the exact quote. It was like, "I'll be damned if I get swept. I've never been swept a day in my life."
Yeah,
So,
it's
when they
like
were down 3-0.
I think that's almost exactly what the quote was. Yeah. So yeah, Yeah, I have never been swept a day in my life. I'll be damned.
I'll
Something
be
like
damned
that.
if I let that happen or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, guess what, Bradley? You let it happen.
You're
So
damned.
yeah, yeah, damn. So game four was actually pretty close. Suns had a lead most of this time. Devin Booker made 49 points, which usually, Booker scores 49 points. I think KD had almost 30. It was like 35, I think. It was a lot. Bradley
Yeah.
Beal had like 10. So, Anthony Edwards, this was his game. He showed us why he was the best player in the series. He scored 40 points in this game, and he gave the crowd a little 4-0, which is it's funny. 40 points, swept 4-0,
Mm,
kind of a little edgy, kind of a
yeah,
little
yeah.
edgy. Yeah, so his idol is Kevin Durant. He's very vocal about that Kevin Durant's his favorite player, watches all of his games, and after the sweep, KD is asked about it, and I do love that he was very respectful, and also Anthony Edwards very respectful, and
They had a nice
uh,
little hug and chat at the end of the game and
yeah,
end of the
and
series.
absolutely Kevin Durant during the press conference was Anthony Edwards is something special. Gonna watch all those kids' games. Like I wish nothing but the best for him. So a passing of the torch, if you will, kind of in
Yeah.
a way. So that was very sweet. And in our notes, we also have that Bradley Beal is now in hell because I guess he is damned. He got swept.
Yeah, and they asked him in the day after, I think in like the what is it called, the exit interviews or whatever,
Yeah,
like for the off season. They're like, so like you're damned. And he's like, I guess I'll be damned.
yeah. He literally
That's
sat down and said, "I'll be damned."
man,
It's pretty. So a good sense of humor. We appreciate that. It's
I will say Bradley Beal though in that last game, he had a lot of turnovers down the stretch that were not
mhm.
good. He had a couple of he had Gobert out in the perimeter and tried to drive past him, and Gobert had the foot speed to keep up and kind of give him issue. Then he fouled out towards the end of the game, and he went over to the bench and like grabbed a like pillow off the chair and like hit his like own face with it. He was like super frustrated because he had a poor game, a poor series, honestly, and
Yeah.
the Suns gonna be paying him $50 million a year for the next 3 years. So
Yeah, that's a little crazy, isn't it? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what's next for the Suns. I did want to mention that unfortunately it wasn't all great for the Timberwolves because with about I think it was a minute and a half left in the game,
yeah,
Mike Conley was dribbling the ball, driven out of bounds, and
I
ran
blame
into
Devin Booker for this, by the way.
absolutely that whiny kid drove him right into the head coach, Chris Finch of the Timberwolves. And he fell and he needed help getting off the court, actually. It was not just like a hit and pick up and he was fine. And turns out that he tore his patellar tendon.
Mm,
So, thankfully though, at the end of the game, so the assistant coach took over. I believe it was Micah Nori took over, and they, were able to finish out the game. And then there's a very like sweet video of all the teammates in the locker room with the coach, celebrating, all smiles around. So Chris Finch had surgery Wednesday. And so he may not be on the bench for the first game against the Nuggets, which is Saturday in 2 days.
yeah,
But if he can't be on the sidelines, Micah Nori, who was the assistant who took over the last game, will assume the coaching duties, and Finch will be in the locker room and able to communicate with the bench.
he's
So
just sitting in the locker room in like a wheelchair, like, all right, okay, now do that. Now call this play, call this play,
all
go
this
go
play,
go.
yeah, yeah. There's like he's like hand signals. He's like a video. Yeah, so we'll see what it's like for the first game against the Nuggets, who we're
Yeah.
going to talk about a little bit later. But before we get in, talking about the winners, very happy for the Timberwolves, of
Of
course.
course, amidst the Timberwolves' success, we see Chris Finch getting injured, and we have the ownership dispute going on. Like, of course, this franchise, it's finally having its moment as like
And
two
it's just,
crises happening alongside it.
of course, it just can't be just all good.
Right.
But it's not just about winners. There's when someone wins, someone loses. So I wanted to
Right.
ask you what you think is next for the Phoenix Suns because their season is over.
I wanna reference Matt Ishbia's post not post game but exit press conference. I think it was this morning. And they asked him like, what are you going to do about the position you're in? And basically, what they mean by that is you're paying Kevin Durant $50 million, Devin Booker $50 million, Bradley Beal $50 million, all on multi-year contracts. And that alongside the contracts such as Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen, who will probably make a fair amount of money this offseason. I think he's a free agent. No, he got an extension. We talked about that. He got an extension from the Suns. Um,
Got an
there are
extension. Yeah, sorry, I was muted.
You're good. They already got they're already going to be in the luxury tax with just those like 5 or 6 players that they're going to have on the roster. And of course they signed a bunch of minimums this year. Eric Gordon, Bol people like that. So like, what do they do? Because they don't have a lot of flexibility in terms of trades. They don't have their own draft pick until 2030. They have trade first round picks and then swaps. The alternating years every year until 2030, I believe.
Also, super important to mention that Bradley Beal has a no trade clause.
Yes. So, and the way he just played in this playoffs, he's not going to get moved for that contract because it's 3 more years. If it was like 1 year, I could see a rebuilding team like, okay, we'll take your contract, but we'll take something else to like for the contract. But 3 years, I don't really foresee anyone taking that. And I don't think this team is good enough to really kind of retool with the cap kind of considerations that they have to think about. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, they're stuck in a bad place because they're paying 3 guys a lot of money. They're not that good. They don't have any depth. They don't have any picks to rebuild. So it's kind of a bleak place to be. Probably not as bad as like the Wizards because you have Kevin Durant still. But Matt Ishbia, what I was
yeah.
talking about earlier in his press conference,
hmm
said he said specifically 26 out of 29 teams would trade everything to be in this position. And I thought, no. Um, I was like, he had okay. First of all, 26 out of 29. The first thing that came to my mind was who are the 3 teams that he doesn't think would
Yeah.
do that?
What?
So I thought Celtics. Based on the
Yeah,
success they're having right now, their team is relatively young for how good they are. I thought Denver, who just won the championship, they have Jokic, Murray, their core is good, and I thought maybe like an OKC that could be like the 13. They're really really young, they're the 1 seed, but
yeah.
like if I'm even if I'm like the Spurs, I have Wimby. I would much rather be that team than where the Suns are
And you
right now
have
with no
picks.
draft picks. Yeah,
Yeah,
like if I'm the 76ers, if I'm the Knicks, if I'm the Pacers, if I like there's like a lot of teams I'd rather be than the Suns. So it's bleak for them. I don't know what's next. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Durant was unhappy and requested another trade. I wouldn't be surprised if Devin Booker finally got out of Phoenix after spending his whole career there. A lot of failing early in the career, and then of course when he got Chris Paul and all them, he started succeeding.
yeah,
So yeah, it's not looking too good for the Suns. I know right after they lost this playoff series, like 3 articles came out like that were clearly already written because they had just lost the series. And it was like Kevin Durant mentions how unhappy his role is in the Suns offense. Devin Booker talks about maybe wanting to go to New York, and like a bunch of different things. So some stuff has clearly been in the works. You don't write that in 2 minutes. They were just
yeah,
waiting for the series to be over to release those things. Frank Vogel's probably going to take a lot of heat for this as the coach because the coaches always take a lot of heat for these things. I don't really think he had a ton to work with though. I would have liked, the big three to work together more in terms of their offensive actions. I just think their roles are all kind of the same. They're all scorers. So,
yeah.
other teams like the Celtics, the Nuggets, the Wolves, they all have different roles, whereas these guys
Very
kind of all did the same
complimentary.
things. Yeah.
hmm
So it's bleak. I don't know what they do. Sorry, I just talked for a really, really long time, and I see you looking over because we had a very close game here, breaking
It's
down in,
getting
in the fourth.
close,
Yeah.
dude.
So
It is wild. Things are happening, man. But I will chime in a little bit. I agree with you on a lot of things about the Suns. It's, do you just kind of deal with 3 years of mediocrity? I mean, I'm assuming they won't. I'm assuming the fans won't be very happy about that. And I mean, so here's the thing: the Suns are still a good team, right? Like ended up being the sixth seed, right? So it's not like they're at the bottom of the barrel. So the thing is, regular season wise, they're probably will be fine. The thing is, every NBA team's goal is to get a championship.
right.
Right, right. At the end of the day, like that's what you want every season. You don't go into a season. I mean, rebuilding teams, you're rebuilding because you're going to get one soon, right? But when you have something as bleak as this, you don't have a lot of picks. You have 2 all-stars for sure, like guaranteed all-stars almost every year
One of
on
whom
the
is in his
roster.
mid-30s, getting older.
Exactly. So, it's like I think about, who would I want to move? And I think Kevin Durant, but then I'm like, Devin Booker's been there for forever and nothing's happened. Maybe he's the problem. The thing is, it's tough because you can't really blame one thing. I don't want to blame Frank Vogel because I think he's a very good coach and he's a defensive minded coach. And guess what? This team didn't really have defenders or
Hmm.
anything. So um, it's interesting to see how they move forward. You and I are not like the biggest Suns fans. I know you grew up being a Suns fan. I did. I was a big Steve Nash
Nash,
fan.
Stoudemire, Sean
Uh,
Marion, Barbosa, Raja Bell.
Barbosa. There you
I
go.
love that team, man. So good.
I love that team.
Mike D'Antoni, who became a Rockets coach. So
Yeah, 7 seconds or less, man.
yes, sir.
But we'll see what happens with the franchise.
They're doomed.
I don't think they're doomed,
They're doomed.
but they have to figure something out. And I think there is a universe where Bradley Beal is like, okay, you could trade me. But the thing is, like you
Fair.
said, does a
Who
team
wants him?
want
His
me?
value is at an all-time low right now.
Yeah, so it's maybe he can prove it next season. Hopefully he comes back and but has a healthy season. I think a season with them all healthy will also, I think, help their chances a little bit on.
Just like a team with an aging Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, like you said, you want to win a championship. You have no draft picks, so there's no reason to be bad. There's no reason to rebuild because you don't have picks.
Yeah, so you just got to try to
But
compete.
how are you getting through the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, the Grizzlies are going to make a return from their injuries, the Thunder,
The
other
West is just getting better,
right?
which is
Like what are they
insane.
going to do? They're just getting older, and they don't have money to do anything or picks to do anything. So
Yeah,
I mean, maybe, yeah, I don't know.
I'm just a bit more optimistic. I don't think any franchise is doomed
Remember that team that
because
went to the finals like 2 years ago that had like nine really good players on it? That was a good team.
that was a good team, and I'm glad they lost. But it was a good team. And they. I think I really hope that a
Really
lot of
could have
these
used
teams
some
are
Mikal
learning.
Bridges.
I know, right? Or Cam Johnson, just anyone to like make shots. I don't want to beat this to death, but just talking about we have so many other teams I want to talk about, but I
Lots happened in a week.
a lot has happened in a week. I just think that, I'll say this. I'm looking forward to seeing how they potentially get themselves out of this.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I find it fascinating. I don't really have a horse in this race, so to speak. So, well,
Mason
also
does.
I was I guess for some reason he's a fan. Shout out. But I do want to say I hope that really after this season, teams learn, especially the Lakers, my Lakers, learn that star hunting and big threes are not the way to go. It's just like three maximum players and minimum, and everyone else minimum is not the way to win a championship. It has not happened yet. It won't happen.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because you think of the Nets with KD, obviously this team, and then you think of teams like the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, the Thunder. A lot of those teams, most of their players were acquired through the draft, and
Hmm.
they traded for the Aaron Gordons of the world, the complementary players, not the
Yeah.
star player. They found their
Yeah.
own star player and then pieced the guys around there that made sense. And
Yeah.
most of those teams have a fair amount of depth, where the Suns had
Absolutely.
none. So
Yeah, I think, and you have to be patient. And I think the Suns got a new owner, and he wasn't very patient.
nope.
They traded all of that stuff for Bradley Beal. I kind of forgot what it was, but I mean, already it was.
It was Chris Paul. It was some picks, some swaps.
Yeah, see the picks. That's where it's going to come back to
Yeah,
haunt you. It's
yeah.
that. So I think it was they're trying to move too fast, and I think they need to be a bit more patient.
Suns have won 0 games since Matt Ishbia took the ball from Nikola Jokic last year in the playoffs. I don't know if you remember that. Like Jokic
They've
went to the crowd and like
Yeah,
Matt Ishbia had the ball and like wouldn't give it to him.
yeah. You think they won 0 games since?
They haven't zero playoff games.
Oh, playoff games, guys. I think they had a seed. But you know what I'm really curious about? You know what I really want to know about? I really want to know about the Pelicans.
The Pelicans, well, they're not in the playoffs, I can tell you that much.
Oh,
Because the Thunder just put them away in four. I predicted, I think, Thunder in five. I think you said Thunder in 5 or 6, if I remember correctly. Um,
yeah, that sounds about
and
right.
and we gave the Pelicans too much credit because it was Thunder in four. Um, Blew them out in game three at New Orleans at the Smoothie King Center. Brandon Ingram in both the last two games really just looked completely stifled by Lou Dort, the Dortcher chamber. or the Dortgen, which you coined. I like the Dortgen too. I think that's pretty good.
I put a note there. I put Dortchen because I forgot it was torture chamber. I remember they said something during the broadcast, and I totally forgot it
I
was
like Dortgen.
something. Dortchen's sounds like you're trying to say something else, whereas torture chamber, you're like, oh, that's torture chamber.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Um, okay, but yeah, he definitely was stuck in the Dortchen or torture
yeah.
chamber. I'm just gonna replace T's with D's. This is crazy.
Josh Hart just hit a three to put the Knicks up three
I'm
in
glad
with
I didn't give it away. I saw it
24
and
seconds left.
yeah, I saw it and I immediately didn't react.
I didn't
So
see it. I was watching they showed the replay 8 times. I saw
that means I did a good job. You didn't get it.
it.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, Knicks are up 104, 103 with 24 seconds left.
Yeah, and going back to the Thunder Pelicans game four, Thunder defense just completely stifled the Pelicans offense. They only scored 89 in this game, 85 the game before. And they just ended up sweeping the series. It wasn't a close game. The final score was only 8 points apart, but the Thunder, it's one of those games they seem to kind of always be 5 or 6 points ahead. The Pelicans could never catch up. And the last thing I just wanted to talk about with that, the Thunder had their last post-game interview with Ballyhoo, who is like their local broadcaster. And like they called like the whole team over there to talk to the guy, and he was like really excited. They were all really excited, and we kind of touched on this a little bit last podcast. But it's really nice to see it. Like they appreciate their local commentators, because Oklahoma City obviously a small market. So I like seeing them give love to that crew because of course now in the second round they're going to be nationally televised every game, so they're probably not going
Yeah.
to really get a chance to see those guys anymore. So yeah, I thought that was cool.
I did notice that, and I thought that was very sweet. And I love how they did, their interview all together as well. It is it's very nice to see a young squad understand that it is not because of one player why they are where they are, right? They are where they are because they are playing as a unit. Yes, Shea is, MVP caliber player, and could be the MVP of this season. So. That was really nice to see. Very proud of this young team for beating a Pelicans team with a lot of experience. Unfortunately, with Zion, this is a whole different series.
Mhm.
I think the Thunder would still have pulled it out if Zion played, but who would really be stopping Zion on the Thunder? They're just kind of a little bit too small. But very proud to see the way they played basketball. They took care of business. Game one was the only time they almost lost.
Mhm.
Every other game, I think game four got a little close. The Pelicans had a lead from like I think going into this, the second half.
Yeah,
But Thunder just got the lead and didn't let go. And
yeah.
they played very calm, very collected. And this was in New Orleans too. And they were able to pull out the wins. And I can't wait to see um, who they're going to play next. I think it's going to be the Mavericks.
That's what we predicted. Mavs in
Um,
six. It's
and
still possible.
we'll talk about that series very soon. But either way, it's exciting for them, and I'm curious what the Pelicans will do next. You want me to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, tell me, what do you think the Pelicans will do?
So this is the offseason they need to make they need to make some decisions. So you can't get a healthy season out of Zion. You were close and it didn't happen. You have Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and you're getting into the bottom of the playoffs, but you're not getting any higher. At one point, weren't they? They're like fourth in the West, but for whatever reason, seems like every year they kind of go down in the standings. So you need to make a decision. Do you want to blow it up? Do you want to maybe try to trade Zion, Brandon Ingram, bring in some like good role players? Because you don't want to get rid of Trey Murphy. You don't want to get rid of Herb. Like these are players that didn't let you down. It's the players whose health is a little concerning. I'm sure there's a team that would love a CJ McCollum, and they can get some, just solid role players for someone like that. Another point guard, a Trey, maybe a Tyus Jones. You know, someone who is not going to need the ball as much, but just kind of delegate and someone be a floor general, so to speak. But I don't know. That's another team. They have a lot of good pieces. Valanciunas is there. Maybe he gets moved.
Yeah,
Since he I think we mentioned he kind of got played off the floor a few times in the
yeah,
series because he wasn't quick enough.
yeah.
And Larry Nance did a pretty good job. So yeah, what do you think about that and the New Orleans Pelicans. And also, just real quick, congratulations, OKC Thunder. Just wanted to say that real quick.
Oh yeah, very happy for the Thunder. Very excited to see how they go next round. We have for me, a 1 point game, 7.7 left in the fourth. Knicks up Brunson about to shoot free throws here. So very, very close. But yeah, Pelicans, this is interesting because I don't think for them it could have been a little better with Zion, with a healthier Brandon Ingram. He was coming off that injury, only played the final game of the regular season, I believe, before the play-in and playoffs. So he was still coming back. He didn't look quite himself, and then he had an elite defender, Luke Dort, on him. So it's a tough series for him. I think for me, the most important question is how do we get Trey Murphy into the starting lineup? Because I think he played really well this series despite them losing. And I think about the team that's currently constructed. It is CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Zion, Valanciunas. That's the starting five. And I think Trey Murphy has to go in there somewhere. And I think he should go in there with Herb Jones. And I think he should probably go in there alongside Zion, which means that Brandon Ingram is the odd guy out. What do we do with that? Because I don't think Zion's 6'6". You can't run him at the center position, right? Um, I think you have to figure out kind of how to make that work. I think Zion and Brandon Ingram, although not often healthy together, is probably a pairing that wouldn't work anyways. I do like your idea about getting a true point guard. CJ McCollum has never really been a point guard. He played alongside Dame in Portland. Oh, I saw
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Sorry for the silence, but we have another series that just wrapped up that we're going to talk about.
yeah.
Uh,
Wrap up. I'll write some quick notes real quick.
yeah,
Just yeah, but as you were saying, you're saying Brandon Ingram, right?
yeah. Brandon Ingram, I think, is the odd guy out. I think him and Zion and Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. It's a good problem to have, but it's too much of kind of the same thing, the same positions. CJ McCollum, not a true point guard. I do think having an actual facilitator would go a long way. So maybe getting Brandon Ingram and some of the other players that they don't quite know what to do with, and moving those for like a point guard, maybe a center that works better with Zion, that can space the floor, that can be a little quicker. Um, can work. I think this team is in a good position though, whereas the Suns, I think, it's very bleak because they don't have a lot. This team has a lot they can do. It's just a hard decision of, okay, what direction do we want to go? Who do we want to build around?
Absolutely.
Who are the pieces to keep and who are the pieces to move? It's a good problem to have, but I
Yeah,
do think they need to figure that out.
absolutely. They're all kind of like, if I'm thinking like 2K, like they're all high 80s, but like there's just no one to kind of propel them up more, to kind of make them the best versions of themselves. So, you know, I um I like the Pelicans. I'm curious to see what they do. I also really want them to figure out how to keep Zion healthy. I don't know how you do that.
Right.
That is such an interesting problem to have. Because when he's on the court, he's very good, almost unstoppable. So it's like, how do you just make sure he can stay that way all season? And also, I mean, you want him to stay that way all season, but you also want him to be able to maybe get an all-star appearance that he did that one, so he has to play 65 games,
Right.
so it's just a lot to consider. But yeah, I think CJ, BI are kind of the odd guys out, but they are very good. It's not like they're bad. They will get good things for them. And I think Pelicans still have quite a few like picks, Lakers picks as well. So they're not in any position like the Suns. Let's put it that way. They're in a little
Yeah.
bit brighter
Y-
spot.
Again, you just think about a team like the Nuggets, a team that clearly works. The starting five complements. Everybody complements. You gotta find who your guys are and how you complement them. Because right now you just
Yeah.
got a lot of guys, but there's not a lot of complementing going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
Moving
I,
on.
gue- I guess it's time for me to talk about the Lakers.
This is another reason I wanted you to take the Timberwolves first because I knew the order.
Oh, I didn't. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. So, Lakers, before we go into it, I just want to say it's been it was a good it's a bit I'm very proud of the season they had. I'm very proud to be a Lakers fan, and it was hard to watch them lose, but you know what, the Nuggets are great. I'm excited to see what they do, and I can't wait for the Timberwolves to destroy them. So, but we're gonna get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nuggets Lakers. We talked a little bit about the heartbreaking game 2 loss, and then Nuggets won the first game, game 3 in LA as well. So this is a winner go home, down 3-0, and the Lakers win. They survive sweep. D'Lo and Austin Reeves scored more than 20. That's kind of the formula for them if they are making shots, and AD and LeBron are on the floor doing their thing. They usually win a game. They had an efficient night, and they held the lead the entire game, first time in the series. So
Right.
I was happy to see that as a fan. I could breathe easy that night. I said, okay, just got to win three more. And deep down, I knew they weren't going to win the series, but it is insane how much I saw people like, wow, they might win the series. It's like, are you kidding me? They're down 3-0. They won one game, and you think they're gonna make it all the way to game seven?
Can you tell me,
I
Dom, how
in
many teams
Denver,
have come back from a 3-0 comeback in NBA history?
no teams have
No
come back.
teams, zero.
Zero. And I am a big fan, obviously, of LeBron James, Anthony Davis. I think it is a good team, but it's not a great team. It's not everything's not as complimentary as like we're talking about like the Nuggets. Some of these are kind of forced fits. So the Lakers did a good job of getting to where they are. I'm proud of them for, winning the play-in game and not being afraid to take on the Nuggets. But again, like proud of the Nuggets, happy for them for doing their thing. It is just a little unfortunate that it did have to come down to a Jamal Murray game winner.
Uh,
And yeah, it was a hard game to watch as a fan because the Lakers had the lead, a lot of this game. And then
Lakers had the lead at halftime every game in the series.
yeah, and then the Nuggets in the third quarter just came back and they got a lead and kind of never let that go. Lakers would tie it up, they'd get really close, and then Lakers had a couple of good chances to kind of get some extra points from some fouls and some foul calls. And if they just made at least two of those free throws, it would have been a tied game at the end and they would have gone to overtime. Things probably would have been a little bit different, but
Right,
it
right.
would have been a totally different game. Didn't Spencer Dinwiddie missed two free throws in a row, and LeBron James missed. I know at least he missed three
Remember when I
out of
said
like,
he should play no more minutes?
yeah. What's crazy is he actually made some pretty good
He
shots in
did,
the
he
middle of
did.
this game, but I don't know why he was in the fourth quarter. In all honesty, he should not have been in the fourth quarter. They should have. I know it also would have been a different game if AD did not get injured. It seemed like it was not a purposeful foul. It seemed like he kind of got like elbowed in the ribs, but it was his neck that was like his arm. He could barely move his left arm for something. I think it was some kind of nerve kind of was pinched or got hit or something. So it would have been a totally different game if that didn't happen. That's just part of the game. I don't blame that. And yeah, I mean, Nuggets are a championship built team, and we'll see if they could, you know, try to make a repeat. But you know, this is me talking to Lakers fan. What do you think the Lakers should do next? Or what do you think what's next for them?
Um, well, first I wanna comment on the series a little bit. I had Nuggets in five. It was Nuggets in five. That's another check right there for me. Um, I saw a thing that showed up during the game that said the Lakers have been leading for like 75% of the series, something like that, which is crazy. And they just like couldn't hold it together down, the end. And I don't think that's even a fault of the Lakers. I think they were kind of playing above their weight, honestly, given the people on their team. I think what's notable for that for the Nuggets is that they really kept their cool. They didn't panic. They kind of were like, okay, sure, we're down by 8 or whatever at halftime. We are kind of struggling with this. Let's come back in the third quarter. Let's focus on this. Let's get back to our game. And it kind of just worked because they know how to execute. But I do actually think the Lakers played it was a 5-game series. I think it was a really good 5-game series. Most of the games were pretty close. Like we mentioned, they were leading for a lot of the series. Um, yeah, going back to the foul baiting thing I was kind of talking about earlier, not foul baiting, but foul complaining. LeBron is the king of this. I hate it. I
I
texted
knew
it
you were
to
going to
you.
mention that. Yeah.
And I mean, some of my favorite players, Luka, even, he's big up for this too. The like, I shot a layup and there was no whistle, so I'm sitting there shrugging like this for 5 seconds, and now the other team's in fast break and they get a layup. I watched it happen multiple times during these last two games where LeBron would do that or someone else would do that, and it happens in other series too, but just something I wanted to point out. Um, I did see some Lakers fans talking about the officiating, and I even texted you and I said it was interesting. There was like you could argue for a foul on this last play when they kind of threw up that heave at the end of game
Mm,
five.
yeah.
Because like Jokic was kind of in front of LeBron, and then Torian Prince, I think, jumped into somebody. I don't know if you would call that an offensive foul or a defensive foul. And then I looked and I saw that the Nuggets took like 8 free throws and the Lakers took like 26, and that Jokic had 0 free throws, and I was like, okay, maybe not. I don't know. Hard to argue that.
Yeah, I'm not just a comment. I think the end of the game I didn't think there should have been a foul call. I mean, it was obviously, I mean, a
The
heave.
second challenge with the no timeouts really put him in a tough
Yeah, and
position
like
there.
they won the challenge, but I texted you. I didn't know the rule, so I'll just say the rule for people who don't know. So in the NBA now you can challenge, and if you get 2 challenges in the whole game. If you use your challenge, um, you have to use a timeout. But if you're successful, then you get the timeout back. If you're unsuccessful, you lose the timeout and all your challenges. No more, right?
Hmm.
So the Lakers had 1 timeout left. There was a foul call on Anthony Davis on a block, and they challenged it. So this was in the last 2-3 minutes, and and it turned out it was a successful challenge. He did not foul.
All right.
I think it was
I think it was
Jokic.
Jokic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but the rule is if there's 1 timeout left for the team, even though the challenge is successful, they do not get the timeout back.
See, I think I read into this too. I think so. It used to be coaches only got one challenge,
Hmm.
and if you got successful, you get the timeout back. I think they changed it and added the second challenge if you're successful in the first challenge, and I think you lose the timeout regardless in the second challenge.
Okay. Okay. But I don't know. Remember if the Lakers challenged. Oh,
They challenged something in the first half,
okay. Okay.
like really early on. Yeah,
But so regardless, thank you for clarification. But regardless, that should have been thought of. But then again, it's like, okay, they didn't.
that's kind of a goofy rule, to
Yeah,
be
if they,
honest.
yeah. But again, if they didn't call it, Jokic gets 2 foul,
Right, if it
and
wasn't
then he
called in the
makes
first
two,
place.
and it's like,
Well, but
you
if
don't.
it wasn't incorrectly called by the officials, you wouldn't have had to waste your challenge. Yeah, it's like
But that's
eh,
also part of the game. Like you can't be
yeah.
mad about that, and that's why I'm not really mad. About like anything, you know, about how they I'm not a big fan of the way they played the game at the end, obviously. But and we could talk about the inbounding, like 3 seconds left, and LeBron like immediately like throws it in, and like
Yeah.
no one barely knows what's going on. Like
Yeah. Usually
it
you try to
take
throw it a little further down the court so you can get a
yeah,
better
even
shot.
though like the Nuggets might set a little bit, like they were kind of celebrating the win, and I know what he was trying to.
I think no one was on the left side, so he was like, "Oh, I can like run up real quick."
Yeah, so
And then
we could
Jokic
talk
was like,
about that.
"Actually, I'm there."
We could talk about that to death, but I think you said it great that the Lakers, like this was a good series, but the Lakers were just playing a little bit above their weight, and they just the Nuggets were very calm and collected. I also want to mention during those coach interviews that you talked about, it was they interviewed Michael Malone like after the first quarter.
Oh
They're
God.
down like 8 points. And they're like, so your team is down 8 points, but it seems like it happens in the entire, the whole series. How do you feel? And he said, like deadpan, like, yeah, we're not worried. Every game has been like that. He seemed like so bored and like, well, it was just like
He
he
like trash
wasn't
talks.
like,
He like hates the Lakers.
yeah, but he was respectful, but it was just so funny. He did not show like any panic whatsoever,
Yeah.
and he was like, "I'm not, we're not worried. Like we know we know the game plan. We know what we're gonna do, and we're gonna stay on top of it." And then they interviewed Darvin Ham in the third quarter once the Nuggets kind of get their like root back. Like, what are you gonna do? It's like, well, we gotta get stops. We gotta get.
I don't know.
I don't know. It is so
That
much.
guy's getting fired, by the way.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that, but
He's he's going to get fired.
well, tell me. So, what's next for the Lakers? Tell me what you think.
Darvin Ham's gonna get fired. I don't think it's. I mean, part of it is his fault. I think we talked about them having one timeout left. I think the fact they had one timeout left, the times Darvin Ham called timeout did make a lot of sense because I think the Nuggets had a lot of runs in this series when they would get back into these games that the Lakers are winning, and he would wait way too long to call a timeout and kind of regroup his guys. I think a lot of the rotations were questionable. A lot of Jackson Hayes when there shouldn't be Jackson Hayes. So Darvin Ham is probably on the hot seat. Aside from that, we did the I called game today, and it was just the Lakers team from last year, and I was like, holy moly, there's like 5 guys on this team that aren't here anymore. And I was like, wow, the Lakers really just do this, huh? So, that being said, I think there would be a lot of player movement. I think
Yeah.
some guys will go out the door. I think you have to kind of decide. Obviously, LeBron was very like, I got to talk to my family and see what my next steps are. He's going to be a Laker. He
It's
lives
the
in
end of
LA.
every
His kid,
season.
his
Yeah,
kids
it's
are in
like
LA. His family's in LA. He's not going to leave LA. I don't think that would ever happen.
yeah,
Um,
I know it. I had a coworker just ask me like, "Did you see LeBron might leave LA?" And I was like, "You literally don't know what you're talking. He's
we've
not
done
gonna
this
leave it."
before.
He's like, "Yeah," and I understand why he does it, and
Yeah.
everyone cares so much, but yeah, he's not gonna leave.
So I
But
I think he'll be there. I'm 100% confident he will not retire. I think that's the other thing that people say, and it's like if LeBron retires, it's going to be like Kobe's retirement, where he announces it at the start of the season. So it's like a
mhm.
tour.
Yeah, they're gonna try to milk like every single game,
Yeah,
that he goes
it's
to, and
right. So
yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen. Um, yeah. So I think LeBron will be there, AD will be there. I'm trying to think, who else is safe on this team aside from LeBron and AD. I think Austin Reeves is probably pretty safe. I think they really like what he does there, what he contributes for them, and then I think that's where the list ends.
yeah. I agree with you. I think also the contract that Reeves signed is pretty like
It's
player
fair. It's
friendly.
fair. Yeah,
Yeah, so
it's
that's
good for
what's
what he
what's
does.
exactly. So I think it's not like they're paying him too much because another team might want to pay him more, but I think it's pretty about his value,
Yeah, he just
especially
signed
after
that
this season.
contract this year, like an extension, right? This year
Yeah, it
or
was
last
4 years.
offseason?
Yeah, 4 years, 56 million, something like
Yeah.
that. So,
I mean, that's a
but
really good contract.
they were projected to be like 4 year, 100 million.
Right.
Like they're like, oh, the Spurs might want him for this much and whatnot. But
I think D'Lo has a $17 million player option. I'm not sure if that gets accepted or not. He kind of
yeah,
played well and then not well throughout the playoffs, so we'll see. I
yeah,
think they like the idea of Vanderbilt. He was just injured. I don't know about Christian Wood. Gabe Vincent didn't really do a lot. Spencer Dinwiddie didn't really do a lot. It's like a lot of question marks here on the roster, and I don't know,
yeah,
how you fill the gap. The free agency class is not amazing, and I don't
right.
know how much cap they can clear if they get rid of a lot of these guys. But everyone wants to be a Laker. That's kind of the reason they do this is because it's easy to get people to LA. It's easy to get people to play with LeBron. Um, so we'll see. Kind of, I do foresee a lot of role player movements. I think Rui will probably come back too. I feel like they like Rui
Yeah,
and what he does.
he's in a pretty good contract too. I think.
Yeah,
I think it's like 2 year, 28 million, something like that. Seems pretty, fair to what he is. I am curious. There will be a lot of people that will not be Lakers next year. And every year it's kind of interesting to see. It's something that I
it's
never
like
thought about
what
when I was a
random
kid
role
watching
players are we
basketball.
gonna get this time?
Yeah, it's so interesting as a kid. I never thought about this stuff at all.
Yeah,
I just was like, oh, I'm gonna watch. When the off season happened, I didn't care, and I was
right.
watched. I was like, oh, I guess this guy's here now, and I didn't know how they got there or whatever. I didn't understand trades, money, whatever. So,
Worth
yeah,
noting they get another future draft pick once the offseason hits, a third one. So that team with 40-year-old LeBron on it, the draft pick is down the line is sounds good because he'll retire, but it's the Lakers. I'm sure they don't care about draft picks because they'll just magically have players appear there.
yeah, and what I do, last thing I want to say, and then I want to move on from this.
I'm
Just
sorry.
no, 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 no. It's I'm like again, like I'm happy for them. The last thing I want to say is that there's a lot of rumors of them, they want to go star hunting.
Trey
The
Young, you're a Laker.
Trey Young, Donovan Mitchell, the two names. And you know what? I really liked this team because it was a lot of good role players. And I think you just have to, you remember, we just talked about consistency. And yes, this is very similar to the team that was last year, but it's not the same.
Yeah,
Like, it's not the same starting five. Like, look at the Nuggets, Timberwolves. Like, the reason why they're consistent and they complement each other. And
right.
we just have to tweak things a little bit. You don't have to go crazy, but for whatever reason, like, we have a bad season, they're like, we got to blow it up. And I think that because of LeBron's timeline, like they have that pressure. So,
Right.
we'll see what happens. And I think your analysis was correct about a lot of the players who are safe or not safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Moving on
Yeah.
from one LeBron team to a former LeBron team, the
Let
Miami
us,
Heat,
let
who
us.
were eliminated by the Celtics last time we were on this podcast. It was 1-1, and the Heat had just took game two. They hit a
Mhm.
franchise record three, and we both were like, yeah, that was probably it, though.
Yeah,
And we were right.
and
Celtics
pretty
in
good,
five.
and we were pretty
Um,
good. We're both right on that.
Honestly, we can breeze through this. Games three, four, five. The Celtics blew them out in all three. None of them were super competitive. Tyler
Yeah,
Hero did end up playing a pretty decent series, I think. Kind of stepping up to the moment. I mean, it was just clearly one team was superior, outmatched, not outcoached. Eric Spoelstra was trying to coach his butt off, but
hmm
the talent difference between the two teams was just way too staunch. Really, the only thing worth noting from the series going on to the next round is that Kristaps Porzingis had a non-contact injury to his leg. I watched the play. He was basically running like a pick on the perimeter,
yeah,
and kind of something happened with his leg. He limped off the court, went right to the locker room. It was revealed later he has a right soleus strain. That's in your calf, by the way, and will miss at least, quote, several games. So their series just wrapped up yesterday. There'll be some amount of time before their next series, because that series hasn't even been decided yet between the Cavs and Magic. So,
yeah,
but hopefully he, gets healthy and all that. Of course, you want everybody to be healthy for the playoffs. Really, the only thing of note though, because like I said, the Celtics just kind of blew right by the Heat. This was not a competitive series. This was not a competitive five-game series like the Nuggets Lakers. This was like one game the Heat won by a miracle, and the rest of the games were boring.
yeah. Every game at least I watched. The Celtics got at least like a 20-point lead in the first quarter,
Yeah,
and the one game I didn't watch is when the Heat won. So
they should
I
have not
literally
watched.
every time I looked because like I have like a free afternoon. I'm like, all right, I want to watch NBA basketball. I see Celtics Heat. I'm like, oh man, really?
Oh,
Like I gotta.
that's
I'm
the
like,
one.
that's the one I like can't like maybe like Cavaliers Magic or like
Yeah, yeah,
Clippers Mavs. But yeah, you said it right. The Celtics they're just the better team this year, and Heat were down three rotation players:
no Jimmy.
Jimmy Butler,
Yeah.
Terry Rozier, Jaime
Oh
Jaquez
yeah, he was out
went
game
out.
five. Yeah.
Yeah, so just not able to kind of pull it together to be a team that's just a lot better, and that's okay. I don't know is next for the Heat. They will probably try to move some pieces around, but they'll probably be almost like they kind of do this every year. They'll probably be about the exact same as they were last year. But we'll see. I don't know if they'll try to keep Terry. Maybe having a full season with Terry Rozier will be better, hopefully healthy. Jimmy Butler will be back, although he might sit out half the season like he did this year. Um,
Start playing games, Jimmy Butler.
yeah, please. It's
What
better when
hairdo
good.
will he have next year at
Oh
the
my God, is he gonna
opening
be
day?
emo again? I was kind wait, and
It was the silly dreads with the no facial hair, and then it was the emo. It's like, what's next for Jimmy Butler?
well, it was also like a silver lining, when he wasn't playing these games because on the preview, it always had Bam and never. And I was like, okay, if it was Jimmy, it'd just be him with the emo. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
which is funny. It is funny. It's very funny,
yeah.
but you know, let's see what
After
you do
a whole
next year.
season, it's not that funny.
Yeah, the first month or two, I was like, this is never gonna get old. It got old.
It got old, guys.
Yeah. What do you think the Heat are gonna do next?
Yeah, I mean, again, kind of like the Pelicans, I can't really blame them for this outing because they didn't have their best player. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
have some other rotational players. It seemed kind of like a down year for them a lot of the year. Then they kind of ramped it up towards the end of the regular season, and of course, Jimmy went out when Kelly Oubre landed on his foot. Kind of a freak accident, unfortunately. But I think we'll see how the Cavs finish this playoffs. I know the Heat have been interested in Donovan Mitchell for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the Heat is kind of like the Lakers in which players will go to play there because it's Miami. It's a nice city, nice weather. People like to be there. So I could definitely see them kind of scrounging up some miscellaneous role players and such.
Yeah.
But I mean, you knew the series was over when like their guard rotation was DeLon Wright and Patty Mills. So I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And then this team's
Yeah,
rolling
man.
out Drew Holiday and Derek White. I'm like, oh, okay, there's there's a difference here.
There's
So
huge difference.
finding some people to fill in those gaps. I think players from that are maybe disgruntled on other teams or what have you, free agents. I mean, the Heat always find guys like they always
Yeah.
draft guys that kind of fit into their system, and then they sign guys that fit into their system. And I feel like they'll continue to do that. They'll come back next year and probably be, around this, maybe a little bit of a higher seed, assuming that they have better health
Yeah,
luck. But yeah, I don't think, no reason to panic or anything. Jimmy is like 36. He's kind of old.
yeah,
But I think they'll kind of ride the wave and see what happens.
yeah. He'll be the Udonis Haslam for sure for the Heat. I feel like he kind of fits perfectly into
There's
what
only one Udonis Haslem.
it's true, and he's still at every game. I bet. You gotta love it.
He's still on the bench to this day,
He's
the
still on the
ghost of
bench. Yeah, he's the
Udonis.
16th man.
Still trying to fight Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah. Well,
Oh wait,
maybe
that
next,
was
maybe
Jimmy trying to fight Eric Spoelstra, wasn't
yeah. Well,
it? Yeah,
maybe next year, Eric Spoelstra will get the Coach of the Year. We'll see.
we'll see. And now
Yeah.
let's talk about the two series that it did today.
Yeah, it's crazy to talk about it right now because we watched both of these games. We both were listening, so we're gonna talk about Bucks Pacers right now. We were both driving home listening to the game.
Yeah, and then I
Um,
watched it after I got home.
yeah, so to kind of backpedal a little bit, so this series ended up going to 6 games, even without Giannis. So Giannis did not play one game of this series, and Damian Lillard ended up not playing 2 of these games because he got injured in game 3. So in game 4, even without Damian Lillard and Giannis, it was a surprisingly really close game for most of it. But Miles Turner could not stop making threes. I don't know how, I think he made like seven threes, which is crazy. Tyrese Halliburton um, down the stretch was playing like back to his all-star caliber style. And I believe this is the game of the Tyrese Halliburton floater, correct? At the end, the overtime and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. Yeah. So, the game, even without Dame and Giannis, went to overtime. And Cash Money Chris Middleton is a baller. I don't think anyone can deny that. He made 2 threes to kind of send it to overtime.
Yeah.
And Tyrese Halliburton got a really good floater and was able to put the game away. So, Pacers ended up going up 3-1, and then they went to Milwaukee, and Dame Giannis did not play, and the Bucks won. You made an interesting note. So the Bucks changed their drop coverage defense that they were playing, and they started to switch everything on the Pacers screens. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes. I actually don't think I think the game winner was game 3, I think. Not game 4. I think we talked about that last podcast. I feel like we watched that happen during last podcast. Like that was the game going on. I was like, was that the game? And I was like, I don't know. Anyways,
Okay,
sorry.
we're
Um,
human, but anyways, okay, yeah, continue.
yeah,
Sorry.
so basically what
Oh,
I
you're
got,
right because this is the score is right there, 126 to 113.
yeah,
Yeah.
so the
So
the Halliburton floater was game 3, game 4 was different. Um yeah. But you talked about it already. Game 5, yeah. So what I had in the notes here is that the Bucks changed drop coverage defense. Basically what that means is when they do the pick and roll and the ball handler goes around the screen, usually it's a big that sets the screen, like the center. So then the center of the other team can either switch or they can drop, meaning they can prevent that player from driving to the basket, but it leaves them open, whoever has the ball, until the other defender gets around the screen. So they were doing that with Brook Lopez, and Brook Lopez would drop back into the paint, and then the Pacers would just shoot. And they have a lot of good shooters on their team, so they're making
yeah,
shots, and that's how their kind of offense was winning a lot of these games. Um, and what they started doing in this game is they were switching everything. So whenever the center would come up, Miles Turner would come up, set a screen for Halliburton. Halliburton would go around, and then Brook Lopez was up there on the line with him, preventing him from taking that open shot. And that kind of just caused a lot of chaos for the Pacers, and I think they weren't expecting it. I think was the biggest thing.
yeah,
So it was just like a Doc Rivers game plan adjustment going into the game, knowing we don't have Dame, we don't have Giannis, we really need to try something here. And it kind of, I think, messed the rhythm of the Pacers offense up, and they really couldn't get it going all game.
got it.
And Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton both had 30-point games, so they ended up winning that game without their two best players, which is crazy.
Yeah. Also, worth noting that Patrick Beverly had 13 points and 12 assists,
He
which is kind of
played pretty
crazy.
well in this series, honestly.
Yeah, and Malik Beasley had 18 points. So, with the combination of that and your role players doing what they needed to do, especially, I think this is the thing that they've talked a lot of this playoff series. well, just about all the playoff games, is that role players play better at home. So that was
Mm-hmm.
pretty obvious in this one, with Bobby Portis getting 29, and Patrick Beverly and Malik Beasley doing their thing. So they did not go down in 5 games. They did go down in 6. And today, driving home was game 6. And gotta tell you, this was the game. This is the Pacers bench game. This has got to be one.
Yeah.
TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin, the bench. Aaron Neesmith was
Mhm.
making great plays. The Bucks just had no depth. Damian Lillard did play, but unfortunately, just wasn't enough. They ended up basically blowing them out by 22 points.
Yeah.
When I started watching, it was already like the Pacers kind of had the lead, even though it was a couple points. But
Yeah.
really, third, fourth quarter really just pulled away from this one.
Yeah, it was pretty close. Well, actually, it started off with the Pacers really hot, and the Bucks came back in the second quarter, and then it was pretty close.
Hmm.
Um, and then the Pacers kind of went in the half with a small lead, and then after the second half, it kind of just took off from there. But yeah, the depth really became an issue for the Bucks in this one. The Pacers kind of bench unit. TJ McConnell went at the rim constantly. Obi Toppin had like a career playoff high, like 25 or something like
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
He was making threes, which is not a big Obi Toppin thing, but he was getting a lot of easy lobs too. When I was watching, and yeah, the guys on the Bucks bench, without Giannis, I think I was listening to the game. It was like 2 minutes left in the third quarter. Was the first Buck player on the bench that scored a point.
Yeah, it was. They had 1 point for forever because it was a free throw. So it was like 40 points on the bench from Pacers, 1 point Bucks, and then it was Pat Connaughton, I think, was the first one to make a point off the bench.
Yeah, so
But
not great
yeah,
for them. And yeah, what do you think? I guess is it me? Am I supposed to talk about what's next for the Bucks?
yeah, because I brought you in because I
You're
wanted a
right.
little expertise about little strategy stuff. But
Yeah.
what do you think is next for the Bucks? What
Yeah.
they should do?
Again, this is the third series I think in a row I've talked about. I talked about the Pelicans, I talked about the Heat, and I've talked about the Bucks. Their best player was not in the series. And it sucks. They're the higher seed, they're the 3 seed. They just traded for Damian Lillard right before the season started, because of last year's kind of offensive woes they had. They brought, offense in. Damian Lillard, I think, played an okay series. He was hobbled a little bit. But without Giannis, I think it's kind of a wash, I don't think you really think of coaching with Doc Rivers. Like I know they haven't been great since he got there, um, but you didn't have a top 5, 4, 3 player in the league,
Yeah.
um, and
Also, you didn't have a full off season with your head coach. Like he literally came in the
right,
middle of the season.
hired
It's like, all
midseason.
right, so
Yeah.
what's going on? What can we
Uh,
do?
yeah, and the Pacers are young, they're fast. This team is old and slow. It's like it's like the perfect team to beat them. That's why we both picked Pacers in 6. Ding ding, we were right. We both
Ew.
picked Celtics in 5, by the way, of the last series.
Ew.
Right about that. We're killing our picks so far in this playoffs. Aside from Suns in 6 by me.
I
But
said
yeah.
Lakers in 7, but we don't talk about
I didn't
it.
bring it up. I didn't bring it up. Yeah, I think that you kind of maybe try to find some guys to fit in, this roster, some
Yeah,
better role players. I think Patrick Beverly played pretty good for them, honestly. Malik Beasley is a good shooter. I want to see more Andre Jackson. He don't only played a couple minutes,
yeah,
but he's kind of a defensive specialist. I think they could have used that in moments to kind of slow down the offense of the Pacers.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, Brooke Lopez is about to be like 37. Chris Middleton is like 35. He seems like he gets injured every year. He played really well in the series.
yeah.
Um,
He had
but
to. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean he like there are times where I'm like, wow, that's the guy that's been like carrying this team with shot making in their finals run in 2021 and other playoff series. But they're old. And
Yeah.
Giannis is getting up there. He's not even 30 yet, but he's close. Damian Lillard's obviously in his like 33 or something like that. So
Mhm.
they're an older team. They're definitely a win now team. I think they just need to find again the complementary pieces for that roster because they don't really have a lot of wiggle room in terms of like their timeline when they need to win.
Yeah. I don't know why I just had this thought, but you know who Chris Middleton kind of reminds me of? Or I guess it would be the opposite, but like Mikal Bridges. I
Yeah,
don't know why. I kind of like, to me, they're almost like he's just like a younger Chris Middleton.
yeah.
And so I'm like, maybe if they can get him somehow on that team, I think that'd be really good. plays really good defense and can like be a third star,
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't
I
know. This is a thought.
no, yeah, I
We'll,
mean,
we'll see what happens.
kind of a wing that is a mid-range shot maker, a
Yeah,
pretty good defender. I definitely
can take
see the
over.
comparison.
Yeah.
What do you think
But
the Bucks should do though?
yeah, it's hard to judge a series when the best player is not on the court, which is super unfortunate. Would he get injured in like one of the last games of the season? Right? It
Yeah,
was
it
just
was like three
the
games left or something.
It was like the Celtics, but I remember the Celtics Bucks game, where there was no foul calls. I think that was the game. I think he got injured, which is crazy to think about. Anyways, but yeah, I agree. I think it's just about um trying to see if you could get some better role players to complement the team. I think getting a full off season with your head coach and all the players is going to do wonders. And you just come into next season hopefully ready to take down whoever's at the top, the Knicks, the Celtics,
Right.
anything like that. Just healthy in the postseason for sure. Um, but you know what I really want to talk about?
What do you really want to talk about?
Well, what I really want to hear you talk about, because your turn,
Okay.
is Knicks 76ers.
Knicks 76ers, a series that ended during the filming of this podcast. So, yeah, if there are any sort of silences or sounded like we weren't paying attention, it's probably because we were watching a game that went down to the wire. Yeah. So, what a crazy series. We talked last episode that said this was probably our favorite playoff series so far, and it delivered. In
Hmm.
every game, every single game was close, was gritty, was competitive. I believe going into game six, the Sixers were up for the series +2 in terms of scoring margin.
Oh,
And
really?
and it was a 3-2 series, with the Knicks leading, and I think they won by like three. So Knicks
Yeah,
+1 is the scoring margin for the entire series,
crazy.
which is insane. So, game four, the Knicks ended up winning 97-92. You had this note in there as one of the best games of the playoffs so far. Little did you know the other games of this series were going
Yeah,
to
I
happen.
wrote that so many days ago. Who would have thought?
The
Oh,
Knicks defense,
that's fun. Sorry, keep going.
very good in this game, and the Knicks legend Jalen Brunson, 47 franchise playoff high, passing Bernard King, who
Yeah,
had two 46-point games in the playoffs.
yeah,
And then in this game, I'm sorry, not Bogdan, Bojan Bogdanovic had an injury in 1 minute. Like he just came in and immediately got injured, unfortunately, and he's having season-ending surgery on his ankle, and he also needs surgery on his wrist. So he had
yeah,
multiple things that were kind of lingering, and he got injured right when he checked into this game. So he'll be out for the Knicks in the second round. Uh, he didn't play a ton for them, but
yeah,
still worth noting.
yeah. Missing a player that on your bench that would play minutes,
Right.
part of your rotation. Yeah.
And then moving on to game five, which was even crazier than game four. Um, Yeah, the Knicks had a big second quarter after the 76ers started the game up hot, and they ended up going into half with the lead. And then the entire second half was just back and forth, and it looks like it was over. The Knicks were up 3-1 at this point. Tyrese Maxey scores 6 points in 20 seconds, one of which being, and they realized this was coming, by the way. This is a strategy. It just happened in the game we were watching. But when you're up three, teams will often foul so that you shoot two free throws, so you can't
Hmm.
take a three. And this happens a lot in basketball. I've seen it live at Rockets games many times. And basically, I went to Rockets Suns, and the Suns won a game like that one time, and it was so annoying. Um, anyways, Tyrese Maxey comes off a high pick and roll at half court, and basically, so he doesn't get fouled, shoots a three from the logo where it says New York, and just nothing but net. I mean, one of the craziest shots I've seen. And then the Knicks call a timeout. He's walking to the sideline screaming, like screaming, and he walks right past like Tracy Morgan, Ben Stiller, and like John Stewart, they look like they literally hate him, like he's the devil. Which was so funny, and he has just had so much raw emotion. It was awesome. And then the Knicks didn't end up scoring on their possession, so the game went into overtime.
Yeah.
And then in overtime, the Sixers just pulled away, ended up winning that game. Embiid had 19, 16, and 10, which is like a crazy stat line. but it didn't feel like he had a very good game. Like at the
Mm-mm.
eye test when I was watching, it didn't feel like he was really contributing that much. Lots of turnovers, lots of missed shots. The fourth quarter, pretty much the whole series, even in Game 6, was a struggle. He looked like he was gassed. He looked like he couldn't make it anymore. Like he looked like he was just kind of running out of
Yeah.
steam there because he wasn't quite fully recovered from his knee injury that he came back from. And Mitchell Robinson played in Game 5 too and did a really good job on Embiid down the stretch. And I think that was probably part of the Knicks' plan, just kind of putting that pressure on him from good defenders, causing him to use more energy. So as the game went on, he was kind of less and less effective.
Yeah.
And Tyrese Maxey was the guy in
Yeah.
this game. He
And
had
I'm
like
good.
46 or something like that.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think 46. And I'm glad that nice to see when a, star player, a superstar player recognizes that he's not the guy this game and he can, you know, basically, say, okay, you're the guy this game. I'm not going to try and like take over. Like I'm just going to try and make it better. I think that's why he had so many assists, because I think he was just giving the ball to Tyrese Maxey. Because yeah, I don't think he made his fourth quarter. It was abysmal. I don't think he
uh,
made maybe like two shots or something like that.
yeah, and I think at halftime of this game, he had like 3 shots made and 3 turnovers or something. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
a good game so far. But also worth noting about Game 5, not even on to Game 6 yet. Game 5, the Knicks only played 7 guys, and the Sixers only played 8 guys. This is just when I was doing some research in the game. Um, and one of those 8 guys that played was Paul Reed, who only played 4 minutes. So it was really like 7 guys and 7 guys. A lot of star minutes in this. 6 players played 48 or more minutes. 48 minutes is a full game of basketball. That's literally the entire game. And of course, it
yeah,
went into overtime, so there's 5 more minutes. Um, but do you think you can name the 6 players that played 48 or more minutes in this game?
yeah. I think so.
Okay,
Tyrese Maxey,
correct,
Jalen Brunson,
correct,
Josh Hart.
correct,
Um, I guess Joel Embiid.
correct.
Um,
Missing
I
one
want to
from each team.
say Isaiah Hartenstein.
Nope,
Okay, OG Anunoby.
correct.
And then on the Sixers, um, not Batum.
Not Batum.
No, not Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris played 49 minutes in game 5. Yeah. And speaking of Tobias Harris, he scored zero. He scored 0 points in game 6. He
0
scored
for 2. 0 for
zero.
2.
Zero. You're getting $35 million, and he played like 30 minutes in game 6 and scored zero
That's a
points.
dream. That's the dream. I
Um,
want to be paid $35 million and score 0 points.
Tobias Harris, you're retiring. His contract expires. He's doomed. Anyways, we'll get there when we're talking about what's next for the Sixers because Game 6 just happened, and that game we were watching. Me and you were in our respective places watching before the pod. We got on the pod. We're watching during the pod. We have commented on it during the pod, and now it's over. The Knicks won a 3-point game, very very close down the stretch. Um,
Knicks
the
1 in 6.
Knicks 1-6, correct prediction by you. By the way, I had Knicks in 7. I was close, but you
Very
beat me
close.
out on
Yeah.
that one. Yeah, the Knicks started off really strong in the first quarter. They were up by like 15, like very early on.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then the 76ers crawled back thanks to Buddy Hield finally making an appearance in Game 6, which is funny because you texted me the other day and said, "Why hasn't Buddy Hield played?" And I
Yeah,
sent you a
he's a really
screenshot
good
that
play.
said
Yeah.
like he has like 14% field goal percentage and has like 0.7 points and zero point 0.5 rebounds or something
Yeah,
crazy
because
like
he
that.
scored 4 points in the first 5 games, and
Yeah.
he played like a total of 30 minutes. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
not great.
he hadn't impacted much, but this game, man, he you could tell after the first shots he was feeling it. When I was watching, he like punt picked Dante DiVincenzo and then did like a sidestep, like falling
Hmm.
in the corner three, and I was like, oh yeah, buddy's feeling it. And he was going off, and the Knicks crawled back. It was I think like a 3-point game at half. And then again, close all the way down the stretch. Lots of foul calls. The Knicks started fouling the 76ers because they were up to get them to shoot free throws. But the Knicks ended up pulling away. I'm not exactly sure what happened because we're literally podcasting while this was going on in this podcast that we're still talking in. But yeah, close down the stretch. Great series. All 6 games were fantastic. Game 2, the NBA admitted false officiating, and the
Yeah,
76ers basically should have won that game. So I'm sure they're annoyed
yeah.
because they were up by like 5 with like 20 seconds left, and they're like, "Oh, we were fouled and we didn't call it," and the NBA literally admitted it. So all these games being so close is like really really tough. Um, But yeah, what is next for the Philadelphia 76ers after such a tough series? Or I guess first, any comments you want to make about any of these
Ye-
games or the series? Best
Yeah,
series so far, right?
yeah. I absolutely agree. Best, most entertaining series so far. I want to, I think the Philadelphia 76ers did a great job of salvaging the season that they could. Congratulations, Tyrese Maxey, most improved player, and Embiid coming back,
And a
and I mean
great series for Maxey, a great series.
absolutely. And I mean, Embiid came back, he got a 50 piece
Yeah.
in one of those games. I can't remember which one.
Foul baiter,
Uh
foul baiter, foul baiter.
yeah.
He's
I
a foul
mean,
baiter.
yeah. Yeah, we know that. We get it. We get it. We talked about it. No, I'm kidding. Um but I just wanted to, I really enjoyed the physicality of this game, and it was really like watching chess. I have two very good coaches, Nick Nurse, championship coach, Tom
Tim.
Thibodeau. You see, there we go again. Just
It
changing.
sounded like Doug Dimmadome.
Dumb Thibodeau.
Tim Thibodeau.
Uh, Tim Thibodeau. He doesn't have a championship, right? He does not,
I don't think so.
as
No,
the
'cause
head coach
he
at
was with the
least.
Bulls and then he was with yeah, no, I don't think.
Yeah. So but obviously very good coaches, and really fun to watch a series where in a different universe, this is like a conference finals, you know what
Right,
I mean? But because of injuries and such, the 76ers were the seventh seed, kind of like the
right,
Lakers,
right.
and it kind of very different,
Because
but
they were the 3 seed, I believe, before Embiid went down. So
absolutely. So things might have gone differently, but um yeah, Tobias Harris is out of there.
yeah,
You
his
you
contract's
cannot
expiring.
you
He's gone.
cannot be paid that much and not show up at all in the
He can't
playoffs.
come back to Philadelphia. He will get hurt.
Yeah, yeah.
Their fans are insane.
But I also don't think the future is bleak. I know, like, the last few seasons have been a lot like, oh, they're always gonna, flame out in the playoffs. They're not gonna make it far. I think they have a lot of pieces, and I think they can make some moves. I know there's a lot of rumors flying around, like try to get, just another piece that could really make this a very intimidating team. And I mean, they're already very good. So, but yeah, I'm excited for the Knicks to go to the next round. They will be playing
The
the
Pacers.
Pacers.
Hmm.
That's going to be a very interesting series. Very
Yeah,
excited.
that's a 90s rivalry.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. But yeah, what's next for the 76ers is that I think they have players they like. I think they got Batum, and I think they like Batum quite a bit. They'll keep him around. Embiid's fine. Maxi's fine. Um, we'll kind of see. Kyle Lowry also played a pretty good series. Like I think he kind of even though he's older, he
They got Grandpa Kyle out there running around.
yeah, just trying to do things, I guess. But like I said, I don't think this is like the last few years where it was so many question marks after the series. Um, yeah.
I'm doing an
So
interpretive dance.
yeah, I got that.
Yeah, the 76ers, I actually think their future is pretty good. They have I believe, a max salary space with Tobias Harris's contract going off the books.
Right.
A lot of rumors about Paul George since he has
Hmm.
not signed an extension for the Clippers going over there. And I think that would be a great fit. Maxey, Paul George, and Embiid. I mean, that would be an awesome
Yeah.
victory. Um, you got guys, that I think are beneficial. Buddy Hield showed up in this game finally. Nicholas Batum is older, but he played really well. Kelly Oubre, really
Yeah.
good series for him. I think he can definitely come back to the team. Um, Aside from that, D'Anthony Melton still didn't play. He didn't play a lot of the series. He was technically active and healthy, but he had the back problems we mentioned a couple pods
Yeah.
ago, so he didn't really play a lot. Because I don't think he was 100%. I think he can be really good next year. But yeah, I think this team is actually in a pretty good spot. I can see them being the 2 seed very easily next year. I think
Yeah.
they have a lot going for them. Sucks with the injury timing, the injury luck that they had.
Hmm.
Embiid was, as much as I make comments about the way he plays basketball, he was on his way to a second MVP before he got injured. So I think this team should be not happy, obviously, but they should be
Proud.
looking ahead for what
Yeah.
could come next year. It sucks that it was a lost year and in Embiid's prime, but I think Maxey, with the way he played, will be even better next year. I think you use that cap space to either get a guy like Paul George or get 2 or 3 guys that are really, really good role players. And this team will be scary for sure.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. So that kind of wraps up everyone that has
Woo!
advanced so far, right? That was a
Oh,
lot. That was a
and
lot.
we only have 2 series left.
We only have two left, and let me tell you, if you can watch any of these, I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Um, so talk a little bit about Clippers Mavericks right now. So they just had a game 5 yesterday with the Mavericks won. So that series is now 3-2.
And we
Um,
predicted what?
we predicted Mavericks in 6.
Oh yeah, and that's
So
happening
and
tomorrow.
and they're going back to Dallas, baby.
Yep.
They're going back to Dallas. So game 3, just some quick recaps. The Mavericks ended up winning. It was a very physical game. I'm sure if you're on Twitter or NBA, YouTube or anything, you saw
It's
that
called
there
X.
or X, any of those and such. You saw, a Russell Westbrook being a menace and PJ Washington getting in it with Terrence Mann and Russell Westbrook and PJ Washington were ejected. There's a lot of it's so funny is that my coworker did that to me, and I was like, I don't even know where it's from. It's like this is NBA stuff, and I was like, I watched it live. I can tell you everything about it. I can tell you everything that led up to that, and I explained it, and she was like, "Oh, okay, thank you." I was like, "Oh, she didn't care," but that's okay because
Shout
I
out
cared.
coworker.
Shout out coworker. And
Don't even get named.
fine Sam. Shout out Sam. She's not gonna listen to this, so I was like, whatever. But
Just play this part of it at work.
sure. Okay, so very physical game, but Mavericks came away with the win. Very good. And then Kawhi was back in the lineup, I should say, in game 3. Game
Yeah.
4 comes around, Kawhi not playing. So you're like, okay, Mavericks, like up 2-1.
Yeah.
Like this should be the game that you win, put it up 3-1. Guess what? The Clippers decided to not miss from 3. And they ended up being up by like 25 at the end of the first quarter. And there's a certain point in the second quarter where they went up by 31 points.
Yeah.
Guess what? The Mavericks didn't let it go that easily. They were able to tie the game at a certain point in the fourth quarter. But for some reason, James Harden was playing really well. And also, I do have to say, I saw that Luka was getting a lot of flack for his defense. He was
Yeah.
playing with 5 fouls like the last couple of minutes
Yeah.
of that
He
game.
was just kind of letting them around him and stuff because he didn't want to foul out.
Yeah.
I saw that
So,
happen many times.
yeah.
So
And, I don't think people know the whole story when you watch a clip and they just kind of go around him. It's like, yeah, he had 5 fouls.
yeah.
So, that is unfortunate. Paul George hit a crazy corner 3.
The three was nuts. The step
So,
back.
over, and it was behind the backboard too.
Yeah.
I think it was Josh Green on him or Derek Jones, like someone.
It was
They were
good
literally on him,
defense. Yeah. I
so
mean,
good. And I props to Paul George for making that crazy shot. And without Kawhi Leonard, they were able to get the win, 116
and
to 111.
Harden floaters all day.
Literally, that's the clip I kept seeing is just him going around Luka and floating it up, and it was
Yeah,
like
and there's a lot of discourse about Jason Kidd not putting in Gafford or Lively because Maxi Kleber was in at the 5 because he was stretching the floor shooting. It wasn't a great game for him. Game 5, he did contribute with that, but game 4, he was not. And so basically Harden being one of the best lob throwers ever, it's like, do I let Harden shoot the floater or do I guard my guy so he doesn't get the lob? Plumlee and Zubac who were getting
yeah.
lobs all game. So hard decision, and Maxi Kleber not the most athletic guy, so it was just Harden floater after Harden floater after Harden floater. I did want to point out too the Kyrie shot, the up and under with
Oh
3
my
guys
God, with
around him at the rim.
the coming down and then
It was
oh.
crazy.
Crazy. This was definitely a Kyrie Irving game. It was not Luka's best game. He admitted that at the end of the post game press conference, and Kyrie really shined. I think he got like 31 points. So that highlight as well. So the series got tied up in Dallas, which was unfortunate. And then yesterday was
Such
game
a
5.
Clippers hater.
What?
You said unfortunately, like you just hate the
Unfortunate for
Clippers.
the Mavericks and for me. Yeah, you're right. I don't know what you're talking about. I love all basketball teams
Shout out
except
Mike.
the obvious.
I don't remember if I said this last podcast, but we had a teacher appreciation thing up on our boards or whatever. Like every door had like a teacher's
Yeah,
name on it, and I just wrote Mavs and 6 on his.
that's so funny.
And the series I think was 2-1 at the time, and he was like, "Are you sure 6?" And then they lost, and I was like, "Mavs and 6."
Having 6. So Game five was yesterday, and before I get into the game, a company, I think it was called Sky Scanner or something. It was, like an Expedia. They put a
Sure.
billboard right across the street from crypto that said Dallas to Cancun deals for flights, referencing, the NBA, and the fans always say, they're going to get out of the playoffs, they're going to lose, they're going to go to Cancun. They're
Right.
like, get them out of here. So, the players, Dallas, the people see that.
Right.
And let me tell you, they played like they saw it because the Mavericks just blew them out. They blew them out by 30 points. And it was the last possible game in crypto.com arena for the Clippers.
Yeah.
And they lost by 30 points. There were two stretches in this game where the Clippers did not score for 5 minutes. And the Stars did not show up to play. Harden was garbage, and Paul George was mid. Your words.
My
Uh,
words. I didn't like I mentioned earlier in the pod. I fell asleep at 9:30, so I didn't really watch this game. But I went back and did a little research, a little digging, watched some possessions here and there. But
yeah,
yeah, not good games from their stars. Good games from Luka and Kyrie.
yeah,
Guess what? They actually played a center and didn't let Harden shoot floaters and
and it
do
worked.
lobs. Actually, and Maxi Kleber, when he was in the game, he was shooting lights out. So
Yeah,
um, that strategy actually panned out this game where it didn't the game before. Um, but yeah,
yeah.
good
The
series so far.
Mavericks, absolutely. Mavericks look dangerous. They're playing in
I
Dallas.
have no idea what's going to happen because every game is like, okay, these are completely different players every time.
Yeah, that's the one. I mean, like the thing why I didn't pick the Clippers to be so high is because the Dallas is pretty consistent, even though every game they basically play the same as long as Luka and the everyone's doing their job in the Dallas, right? And they're a solid team. The Clippers, they could be the best team in the West one game, and then like a mid team in the West. So
Right.
that's why I just, didn't have a lot of trust in them. We'll see what happens.
They
If there's a game
finally beat
seven,
them without Kawhi.
yeah, they finally did. And I promised myself if it goes to a game seven, I have to go to the game. It's on my bucket list to go to an NBA game seven.
That would be so awesome.
And it would be it would be the last game. Well, maybe the last game in crypto.com arena again for the
But yeah, if
Clippers,
they won,
possibly.
they would play next
Yeah.
series. Yeah.
So, we'll see. We'll check in with that. I'm excited for this game. I don't want to miss it at all.
Yeah.
Um, but this other series has also been pretty interesting, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, Cavs, Magic, we had game 3 was the last one we talked about where the Magic went back to Orlando and just smacked the Cavs. And then we thought, okay, the Cavs are going to come back and give a respectable effort after the beating they just received. And they did not. They got smacked again. I believe 60 something, 58 points, something like that. The Magic had the highest 2-point game differential in like NBA playoff history or something crazy like that in their blowouts against the Cavaliers. So they won again at home. Franz played like an all-star. They just totally dominated the Cavs at home. The Cavs, they just looked like they didn't care, honestly. They were just running out there. Like they did not look like they wanted to be there playing basketball. It was kind of sad to see. Darius
Yeah.
Garland, not good this series. Not good at all. You're right, Jamal Murray is better. Going back to our point guard debate from
Yeah.
30 episodes ago. Um, yeah. And then game 5, finally we get a close game, 104 to 103, 1-point game. The Cavs barely pull it out at home without Jared Allen. So impressive because I mentioned last pod he was like the only guy that looked like he cared.
Yeah.
And they didn't have him, and I was like, oh, they're doomed. It's over. And they ended up winning. It was a close game down the stretch. Franz Wagner went in for a layup at the end, and Evan Mobley blocked it at the rim. Paolo had 39. He was going crazy all game. He looked really, really good for
Yeah.
that Magic offense. They weren't getting a lot outside of him. But yeah, it was a nice game. It was finally, I felt like the first 4 games were like, oh, the Cavs are killing them. The Cavs are killing them. Oh, the Magic are killing them. The Magic are killing them.
Yeah.
2-2 series, so it seems even, but like none of the games were super interesting. And this was kind of the first close one. So I'm excited to see Magic, how they respond in game 6. I originally picked Cavs in 7, I think. I think you picked Magic in 6. I think it was something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
that sounds about right. Something like, and then
so
I think I conceded when we went further to Cavs, but
Yeah,
We'll
so
see.
we're getting the long series like we did predict though.
Yeah,
And just like Clippers Mavs, we're getting different teams when we like it's like I don't know what's going to occur in the next game because like there's not a lot of pattern I'm seeing. It's like one game
yeah.
y'all are playing like this, the next game you're playing like that. So
And
uh
you can't really, I think like what are some causes? Like I would attribute it to maybe if they're young players, but they're not really like Magic kind of, but I think
Magic
that
are
the
pretty young, yeah.
Clippers, they're not. Like
The
why are they being
Cavs,
so inconsistent? Cavs aren't all, they've also been here before, so it's
yeah.
not, it's just interesting why some teams are like that and some aren't. I wonder if it comes down to like the leaders on the team, and the players and maybe the coaches. So
Yeah.
but we'll see
But once these series wrap up, we'll kind of get into the off seasons for whoever is eliminated.
for sure.
And now, without further ado, even though these series are not over, let's talk about how we think round two is going to go because it starts Saturday with the Timberwolves Nuggets. So I feel like
Yeah.
they're going to be underway by the time we're back here. So let's talk about it a little bit, see what we think.
Yeah, just a little bit. I want to, I feel like we're going to be talking about it for a while. So, don't want to, give away too much. But if we're talking Nuggets Timberwolves, it's Timberwolves in 6.
Mm,
Yeah. I have to think I probably want to look more into like, home court advantage. Denver does have that.
yeah.
So they will start in Denver, then go to Minnesota. But um I pick defense over offense every time. And I think the Timberwolves have shown that they have an elite defense. Also, they've had longer time to kind of plan and get ready. So I think they'll come in pretty hard. Maybe get one of the games in Denver. I don't know about game one, but that's what I think. Could go to 7 games, but I think Timberwolves will win, mostly because I want them to. Yeah,
Yeah. This is maybe going to be the best series of the entire playoffs. Even though Knicks
absolutely.
and 76ers was like a really good series that just happened and
There's a first
it
round.
first round
Yeah.
series. Um, this Nuggets Timberwolves series, I feel like it's just going to be an absolute bloodbath. These two teams, I think I would pick both of them over the Celtics. Which is kind of a crazy thing to say, but
Yeah.
and they're playing each other in the second round, not even the conference finals. So
Hmm.
it's going to be awesome. I think the Nuggets are really good. I do worry about the Jamal Murray injury. He was a little hobbled. He played
Yeah.
to that calf injury, dunked on LeBron in that calf injury, which was crazy.
Yeah.
But I do worry about that, especially because the Timberwolves are very physical defense. They have long arms, bodies to throw at you. Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards has been hounding people on defense as well. Even Nikhil Alexander-Walker. And then I don't think you can really stop Jokic. I don't think that's possible, but Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns and Naz Reid is probably, as close of a three-man, big
Yeah.
rotation you're going to get to throw at him. So I think that will do the Timberwolves some favors. I think I watched a clip when they were playing the Suns of I don't know if you've seen this clip. It was just them rotating. It was like they were kind of out of position and they passed the ball over and like basically the defenders were like they were playing man, but they recognized where like the lapse in their coverage was. And so they were like rotating and knew where the next pass was going to go. So they were perfectly like getting to the people that were as they were catching the ball that were going to be open. And it was wild to watch. And I feel like defense like that is going to be really good for Jokic because he's often good at finding the open man.
Yep.
But if you can play defense and kind of predict the pass, that's a good way to stop them. So I think it's going to be a close, good series. I'm a little concerned about the Jamal Murray thing. The Nuggets don't have as much depth as they used to have. I would agree. Timberwolves in 6 is my that would be my
Wow.
prediction right now. I know I've been so Nuggets friendly on this podcast, but the way they just dismantled the Suns was a sight to see. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't, you don't see that as a nugget and think we got this. It's like, ugh, this might have to actually try a bit
And
harder.
I think back to
Um,
last year, it was Bruce Brown that said the Timberwolves were the toughest series they played. It was a first round series, and that
yeah,
was without Naz Reid and without Jaden McDaniels.
yeah,
So
yeah, and it was 4-1, but even then
yeah,
they were all pretty close games and everything. So, and they're just a better team this year.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
there's
sure.
more locked in. Okay, so the only other one we know for sure, Knicks Pacers.
Yeah, Knicks Pacers. This is two very different brands of basketball. The Pacers are up and running and flying, and the Knicks I feel like are very half court oriented. They do have a lot of hustle with the Josh Harts and the Dante DiVincenzo's of the world. Um, I think the thing that is interesting about the series is I don't know who the Pacers have to guard Brunson. I
Yeah,
don't know who their first kind of point of attack is for that because they they run Halliburton, who's not a very good defender, obviously at point guard, and they run. I'm not even sure who's been starting. I think Neesmith is out there. I don't know if he starts though. I know
he
TJ.
doesn't start. Yeah, so it's I'm pretty sure it's
I know Miles
Albertan,
Turner starts,
Nimhart,
obviously.
Siakam, Miles
Nimhard,
Turner, and
Nimhard.
not Obi Toppin. No, there's a three. It's not Ben Shepherd.
Who
I
knows,
can't think of
man?
that third, like that small forward. Keep talking. I'll figure it out. I
Okay.
remember seeing.
Nimhard is a pretty good defender, but he is kind of small. And
Yeah,
Brunson's bulky. So I think about that. I do like the Miles Turner being able to stretch out Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein, which I think is interesting. Um, yeah, I think of Ben Shepherd and I'm like, that guy's playing in the playoffs. I don't know about that.
yeah.
Um,
It is actually Neesmith as a
it
starter.
is
I
Neesmith.
got
Okay.
confused. Okay, yeah, that
Yeah,
makes
so
sense.
Neesmith, I think is a good, probably the best Brunson assignment they have.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, this is so weird. I feel like the Pacers losing to the Bucks without Dame and Giannis that one game really doesn't give me a lot of confidence. And the Knicks playing, I know a seven seed in the 76ers, but we mentioned already how they weren't like a real seven seed.
Right.
So I think I would go Knicks in this series, and I would say. Man, I think the Pacers are probably worse than the 76ers. So I'm gonna say the Knicks in five. I don't feel good about it, but
Yeah, I wanted to say something along those lines that you did as well. Like, I think the Knicks will find a way to slow the game down.
mhm.
I think they're very good at that, and we've seen that in this last series. The Pacers are young, they are quick, but the Knicks have people that are great defenders, will put up a good fight, and I think they are just more prepared for a also what's I think important to know is that they both had a long series, right? So it's not like the Pacers got a lot of rest, not the Knicks got a lot of rest. They are both gonna kind of just start playing a few games after. Knicks have home court advantage. Madison Square Garden is an insanely hard place to play and win. Because Knicks fans are crazy. As we found out in Philadelphia when they won game four, I think. Um, so I would also say Knicks. My gut says in six, but I could see it in five. But I agree. I think the 76ers were a bit of a better team than the Pacers. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Knicks to the conference finals. Timberwolves to the conference finals.
Yep.
Um, let's do Celtics, and it doesn't matter who they play, they're winning. All right, moving on.
Yeah, yeah, moving on.
So,
That's honestly about that. And then
Celtics at five. Whoever they play, I don't care. Celtics at five. That's my
yeah,
guess.
and it's Thunder Mavericks. So it's definitely gonna be that. So
What?
so
Oh, Thunder Mavericks. Oh, I see.
Thunder
I see. I
Mavericks. Yeah,
see. I
yeah.
see. Yeah.
Thunder versus
I see.
Mavericks.
I see.
Thunder
The
Mavericks.
Clippers have no chance, no shot.
No shot. No, they're going to Cancun. But yeah. So I'll just be quick. Thunder Mavs, I say Mavericks in seven.
Mm.
Um, and then Celtics will win in five or six against whoever. Yeah.
Thunder and Mavericks or Clippers, should they make it?
Yeah.
Is tougher than I thought because originally when we did this first round predictions, we kind of quickly did like a bracket, at the end of that episode.
Mhm.
And I think I said Mavs and six against the Thunder, and I was more confident about that before this first round series because
Yeah.
I feel like the Thunder, like I know the Pelicans were undermanned, missing their best guy, but they really played a very nice, consistent first round series. Like
Mature too.
yeah, like they
Yeah.
handled them quickly. So I think I'm a little more, and I think if it's the Mavericks, Luka really specializes getting those bigs out on the pick and roll and hitting them with threes or driving past them. And I feel like Chet is a really good, agile, big out on the perimeter.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a tougher series than I originally thought. I'm gonna say Thunder in seven. I'm gonna flip. I'm gonna flip on the Mavs. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
okay. I like
Mavericks.
that. It's
Uh,
okay. I actually do what I love about that matchup is any team winning. I like.
you're
I,
right,
I think
right.
the Thunder going.
As long as it's not
Mavericks.
the Clippers.
It's not gonna be.
Uh,
That's fine.
Break
And
the
then
paint.
rip the net. Give no quarter
Go back and
or
listen if you don't get
dimes
that.
or
If you
nickels.
don't get
Yeah,
that joke, go back and listen.
yeah. Go listen to all of our 34 episodes before this one.
Right.
But yeah, I don't want to go too much further in conjecture because we really don't
Yeah.
know what's going to happen. But it's these playoffs are just going to get better.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
very excited.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been exciting so far. It's been a great playoffs. I love having the pod, talking about it with you. I feel like it makes me pay attention to certain aspects that I may have not as a casual viewer.
me too.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's been really nice, really fun. Good playoffs. When I get a game from this playoffs in the I called game 2 years from now, I'm be like, I know every player in this game.
Absolutely. My eyes were glued. And we're still gonna have the pod too. And it'll be like, oh man, we could talk about that on the pod. Remember when we were youngins looking at it and watching it?
Who will be our first guest on this podcast?
A friend, a good friend.
In our off season when we're just talking about one team's off season for 3 hours and we just have
Yeah,
one person.
that sounds about right. I can see that for us. But yeah, I that's the playoffs so far. I will, the next time we talk is going to be a few games in each of the new series. I'm sure. I'm
Right.
sure. So kind of dissect a little bit more. Kind of look back at
So
what we
much
think.
basketball is happening. We have so much to say.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
I
So
love basketball.
I do too. If there's a game seven, I'll be going to that and I will be telling everyone about it. So
FaceTime me.
I will. Yeah, but yeah, that has been our podcast. This was kind of a long one, but we appreciate you sticking
I'm
around.
sorry. I'm
And
sorry. I keep talking. I can't help it. I
no,
love
we have a
basketball.
lot. We have so much to say. It's nice because during the season, I was thinking about this earlier today. The regular season,
Uh-huh.
there's literally 30 teams playing games on any
Right.
given night,
So it's
right?
like whatever.
So it's like, yeah, how are you supposed to like cover all of that? But now it's like, okay, we could just dissect 8 teams. Like, come
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
too easy.
That's what you signed up for when you clicked on this episode.
Yes, and we thank you for it. All right, Damon, make the shot. He's
Yeah.
gonna shoot a shot, and oh, just a little bit harder. You would have made it.
That was really close.
That was
I didn't
closer.
think about that at all.
Yeah, but thanks again for listening. Subscribe, comment, let us know what you think. If we're wrong, if we're right.
Watch the
Uh,
video, maybe. I don't know.
watch the video. We'll catch you next time on episode 36, the Shaquille O'Neal Cavaliers or Celtics episode.
Suns.
Suns, yeah, whenever he was
He
reigning
was
with
on all those
36.
teams, so
Yeah, but thanks again for listening. This has been Two Man Game with Damon and Dom.
buckets.